Doing good, man. Glad to be here. Appreciate you guys. Been missing you all week. My little girl had me going, backwards and forwards, forwards and backwards. But I'm back, ready to talk some ball.
Glad you're back. Saw you were really busy this week, but busy is good. Busy is fun, especially whenever you have a child that's so active and is excelling in so many things. So
Yes,
awesome to
sir.
see, Coach. Coach Jay, how you doing, my man? How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling all right, man. My nose is a lot better. For the most part, throat for the most part, not puking puking that much mucus. Um, Guys, if you're gonna go fragrance shopping I know Father's Day is coming up. If you're gonna go fragrance shopping, you need to be very, very careful of what you do, man. You need to be very, very careful what you smell because literally you can get messed up. I didn't think getting sick from a fragrance could happen until it actually happened to me. So definitely be careful. Be very, very careful what you're doing, man. But like I said, I'm back. I'm back. Show my face here, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about today, guys. And I think the best way to start is Alabama gets a massive win on the recruiting trail this week. And if you listen to some pundits out there, this guy who's only 3, 4, 5 spots away, depending on the year, from 5-star status is a 3-star. Wouldn't you know? Kelin Russell, former SMU commit, flips to Alabama, one of the top prospects in the state of Texas, the number one quarterback in the state of Texas. If we look at the 24/7 Sports Composite, he comes in as the number 38 player in the nation. And now Alabama has their quarterback. Coach Sean, I want to start with you. What was your thoughts whenever you saw Kelin Russell pull the trigger and commit to the Crimson Tide?
I was happy. I had watched this kid prior, and I was wondering why this kid would no disrespect to SMU, but I was definitely wondering how. I know they got plenty of money and things of that nature, and an up and coming program and a different conference. I know it's some things about SMU that might be appealing for the future. But I was very shocked to see a kid of this talent pick SMU. I mean, this kid, man, is great in the pocket. And this is not an athlete who play quarterback, man. This is a quarterback who just happens to be athletic as hell. This kid is really, really great. His intermediate to short passing game is impeccable. I think he's very, very good at off-platform throws. I've noticed when he's on the run, he's really accurate downfield on the run. So it was crazy when I seen this kid commit to SMU. So to pick up this kid who had well over 28 scholarships, a kid that's growing, a kid that come from a high power program out there, as you know, Ty, that you schooled me to, Duncanville. I mean, I think this is a huge pickup for Alabama. I know there are those that'll try to write it off and downplay it because of the school he was committed to, but I think that's as stupid as you can possibly get. Look at the tape if you know what you're watching. Watch his all platform throws, watch his footwork, watch his accuracy downfield. Watch this kid. And let me say this really quickly. This is a kid that in his sophomore season threw for 254 attempts. He had 254 attempts and 2,300 yards, right? His junior season last year had 262, I think it was, attempts. So he had about the same amount of attempts each year, but he threw for 1,000 yards more his junior year. What does that tell you? This kid is getting better. He hadn't peaked. He hadn't plateaued. This kid is obviously getting better at what he likes to do, and the offense of Kalen DeBoer fits him. This is a huge pickup for the University of Alabama, no matter what nobody tell you.
100% love it. Coach Jay, talk to me.
Yeah, I like Keon Russell, and and like Coach Sean said, you're talking about a kid who came from Duncanville, who won, I think, back-to-back state titles, including beating hell. I mean, North Shore. I mean, I remember, man, when Duncanville. I mean, that was their kryptonite. They lost to North Shore, I believe. What, three? No, they didn't lose to them 3 straight times. Yeah, but they lost them a couple times to the state championship, including one on a Hail Mary and one of the oh my God, man, Jaquindon Jackson not getting a state championship for Duncanville is one of the saddest things you'll ever see. And then they ended up losing to Quinn Ewers. That's when Duncanville had Kendrick Blackshire. But no, I mean, Keon Russell, he has been a major stable part in Duncanville's success. And, this kid's been playing, starting since I believe since a true freshman. And now you look at to a point where he's at right now. Yeah, this kid's only going to continue to get better. He's going to continue to get bigger. Remember, he's only, I think, 175 pounds right now. So he's got a lot of room to grow in his weight. But in terms of what you see from this field, I mean, you're talking about the first couple of levels. Extremely accurate with those first couple of levels. Right now, he's more of a one read, anticipatory type of thrower right now, but he is not afraid. Again, he will scan the field. He's not afraid to kind of plant at that foot and able to kind of scan it and take those big shots. But he's also a scrambler, also a guy that can scramble. He's a guy that can turn in minimal games to long gains. He's very extremely elusive in the pocket. I love his pocket presence in order to kind of sense the pressure kind of coming up to him. I think that's a big strength for him. But right now, like I said, I think the offense that he's in right now, again, it's not the most advanced offense in the world. Obviously, right now, it's an offense that's going to make it a little bit more easier for him to kind of be around. Right, it's kind of more of a Lincoln Riley sort of offense, where again, it's more one read based. But again, there is concepts where you do need to kind of scan the field a little bit, but it's not too complicated. And he's got and again, he's mastering the offense. He's mastering that offense every single year that he's playing under it. So I like what I'm seeing from Kelin Russell. Again, you're talking about a back-to-back state champion. Duncanville is one of the top 5 best schools right now in the entire country. And, Duncanville, guess what? They're going to be the favorites again. They're going to be the favorites again to potentially go ahead and to potentially three-peat this thing. So, I'm excited about this. I understand that some particular people out there have the wrong information about Kelin Russell because, like Coach Sean said, he committed to a Dallas school, by the way, right? Somewhere that's actually very, very close to him, and apparently that's a diss. Apparently that's going to be a diss to Alabama because we got him away from a school that's not even that far away from his home. But it is what it is. It is what it is on that particular aspect. I don't know if Ty wants me to kind of go in that hard.
By all means, but listen, you have a free platform here.
On the particular individual, and he gave me the plus up because, this is how hated the University of Alabama is, right? Alabama is hated so much. People prey on our downfall so badly that if you simply get a recruit from SMU, that's apparently that's a slight. Apparently you're going backwards. Apparently you're going in the wrong direction if you get a kid from SMU. How does that make sense? Because we couldn't land the number 1 quarterback apparently in the country, which, by the way, this is all subjective. There isn't a clear number 1 player there isn't a clear number 1 quarterback. We don't even know if the quarterback is going to be great. The fact that this kid has over 23 offers right now and still going up, including from some of the best universities like Oregon, Ole Miss, Georgia, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Miami, some of the top universities in college. And yet you have these folks out here like Matt Moscona, and by the way, an LSU Patriot, a guy that's definitely he's kind of come out and said that, hey, listen, man, I hate Alabama to death. So we all know his hatred towards Alabama. But the fact that it is a slight that you have to picking up a quarterback from SMU is a downgrade compared to what they've done in the past. Which, by the way, they picked up Jalen Hurts. He has a higher rating than Jalen Hurts did for his 24/7 Sports composite. He has a higher rating than AJ McCarron and Mac Jones, former national champions. Matter of fact, he actually has the same rating at this point than Tua Tagovailoa did when he came out of St. Louis and Honolulu. The exact same rating, which is 39, which, by the way, where is he getting his information from that he is a 3-star recruit? Oh, from ESPN, the same folks owned by Disney, the same folks, by the way, which has literally been regarded as the worst recruiting site in college. But you know what? I guess ESPN 104.5, which, by the way, only people in that state of Louisiana watches. No one else outside of the state of Louisiana even knows what the hell ESPN 104 is. We didn't even know that ESPN is even resided in Louisiana. If you would have told me that, I would have thought it was a joke until you actually see what they're covering. Which, by the way, no slide on them, right? They do a phenomenal job. They have some interesting components. But then when you hear the words coming out of some of these people's mouth and the crap that you hear, it all makes sense, guys. It all makes sense in the end. These people hate Alabama. These people are jealous of Alabama. These people want to be Alabama. And it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. But if we're going to slight a kid because he committed to SMU, at least get the facts straight in terms of his offers and in terms of his actual rating. Because apparently they got information that he was a 3-star recruit and not even a guy that wasn't even ranked in the top 100 of the quarterback. Until you go to every other recruiting site, such as On3, 24/7 Sports, and Rivals, when they actually had this guy, two of them had him as a 5-star quarterback. The composite ranking, which piles everything together, including ESPN rankings, had him as the 39th best player and a top 10 quarterback in this class. But it is what it is, guys. Alabama gets the most hatred. It's no surprise, especially coming from a person in LSU. And just one quick thing before we kind of pass this thing off. This guy referenced Jalen Miro as a running back. Well, sir, this running back beat the absolute shit out of your team. This running back threw for a career-high 77% completion percentage, 234 yards, and also rushed for almost 200 rushing yards against your team and put up 42 points against your subpar defense, which Brian Kelly fired his defensive coordinator because your guy, your coach that he hired for your program couldn't stop a running back playing quarterback. So I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe picking another running back from SMU from that was a former SMU commit is the right thing that we do, because clearly running backs can still beat the shit out of your program.
Let me say this before you pass it to Jake on Matt Moscona. I didn't want to go into Matt Moscona, but if we going into him, right? Let me say this really quickly. This is why I don't, and this is just Coach Sean talking, so don't put this on Ty, Jake, or Jans. I don't have in particular importance of watching goofies who don't know football or say things for clicks and views. And I know that's a lot of them. I appreciate the people like George Teague who don't have as big a platform, but gonna give it to you straight. He gonna give the fans the straight business. He's not gonna cut no corners. He's not gonna favor Alabama. He's gonna tell you the truth. The guys like that, you always know have the best football knowledge, and that's who I watch. I don't give a damn about these goofies whose team has lost to Alabama 13 of the last 14 years or whatever the hell it is. Your team has beat Alabama twice in over a decade, I think. You know what I mean? Like, I would hate Alabama too if I was him. I would really hate Alabama. Alabama is the team that pissed on your porch, bro, and you know it. That's why you feel the way you feel. You deserve to be slapped to the Everglades for that ridiculous take, right? But I don't blame you. I actually applaud Mr. Moscona. I applaud him because he did what most people do when their channels are not very popular. You just say something bad about Alabama. So it's a very good move on his behalf, because look what we're doing now, right? So I applaud you, Mr. Moscona. But the last thing I will say in respects to you, sir, we both know better. We both know better. Carry on.
And Jake, before I pass it to you, you want to know what really just, guys, one of the reasons I got into this, right? And one of the things that I think, you know, Coach, one of the reasons I think you and I have always gotten along so well, Coach Sean, is that I don't want to be an inflammatory channel.
Yeah.
I want to talk football. Now,
Facts.
I'm going to give you my opinion, and you might disagree with my opinion, and that's all well and good. I'm not here to be agreed with, right? I'm here to be understood. If at the end of the video, I make a case and you say, I disagreed with Ty, but I can logically understand how he got from point A to point B, I have done my job. If I have given you something new to think about, I have done my job. I'm not here to be agreed with. I'm here to be understood. You know what fires me up? And Jance, this is going to piggyback off of what you said. I just looked at ESPN's ratings. They have him as the #1 dual threat quarterback in the nation and a top 100 player. So this guy is just making shit up.
Clicks and views.
About a kid that's 17 years old. That's the part that I don't like. Gentlemen, if he wants to say Kalen DeBoer will fail, well and fair. If he wants to say Alabama's going to fall off, well and fair. You're talking about a 17-year-old kid who just pulled the trigger. This is something I don't understand when media people do. I don't understand it when fans do it. And I even said this once on a post where someone was talking about like, oh, well, this kid is, you know, this, and this. And I was engaging with someone on Twitter, and one person said like, oh, well, they all hype up whenever they get a 3-star. And I said, as they should. Mm-hmm. If your team gets a commitment, be excited about it. I don't care if he's not ranked. I don't care if he's a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, because for that young man, his dream just came true. So why are we not going to hype that up? These are the little things that make a difference, not only for that kid, but for the families in that town that now have an innate belief that there is something bigger out there for them, that there is something that they can also achieve because they just saw someone do it. I don't understand shitting on a 17-year-old kid saying, oh, he's a 3-star. He was committed to SMU. No talk about how he's actually the number 38 player in the nation. No talk about how, per the place you work for, he's the number 1 dual threat quarterback in the nation. No talk that Oregon wants him, Florida wants him, Ole Miss wants him, A&M wants him, Florida State, Virginia Tech. No mention of any of that, because that doesn't fit your narrative. And at the end of the day, he wasn't out to talk about football. He wasn't out to make principled arguments. He was out to make something inflammatory that he thought would get people enraged. And listen, shout out to you, because Coach Sean, like you said, you did.
Yes.
We're talking about it. I quote tweeted it, but I can't stand this part of the sports media where it's like, I'm just going to say shit that's not even true. That if gentlemen, I just sat here and Googled it and within 5 seconds had the information. This guy is getting paid. This is the part that just frustrates me, guys. And listen, someone could say, Ty, you're a little bit jealous, and maybe you're right. I work my tail off to try and get my channel to where it is. I have been so fortunate that I have such an incredible community that we have gotten to over 22,000 subscribers. But I work my tail off, and I'm not making a fraction of what this guy makes. Part of the reason why is because I refuse to just start engaging in that type of inflammatory conversations, because it's not conducive to anything successful.
Facts.
And that's the part that just kills me. You're getting paid buku bucks, and you've got 8 people in a room with you, and none of you thought, maybe we should talk about the truth instead of just trying to poo-poo on a 17-year-old kid's moment.
And then he read out of the paper. That's the crazy part about it. He read from the paper, which, by the way, I would love to know what's on that paper. Maybe something, maybe blank. But what was on that piece of paper that he read? Because apparently those facts that he got that called him a 3-star, we all know that was completely wrong. So where did he get that information from? Who decided to print that out? It wasn't from ESPN, the station that he works for. I mean, or was it? Was it from a state? Was it from a, this is why ESPN 104.5, and listen, I'm not going to shit on them completely, but this is why, for the most part, it's like it's a Louisiana station. It's not really even an ESPN station. This is a Louisiana station. They cover nothing but Louisiana sports. And the one team that they constantly always talk about, that's always on their damn mouth, is Alabama. Alabama. Listen. There's a couple guys. I think there's one more person. He actually worked for the Volume. He's working with Aaron Murray. I forgot what his name is, but big out to him. Like, they got some really, really good guys out there. They're exciting. These guys are extremely entertaining to watch. But man, the shit that comes out, I mean, they literally make it publicly known that they hate Bama every chance that they possibly can get. I mean, you should have seen when they beat Alabama in 2019. These motherfuckers were throwing a parade. These things, I mean, smoking cigars, drinking whiskey. I mean, these guys were like, everybody on that. It felt like the Super Bowl. Like, it was insane, man. So I mean, it is what it is, man. I mean, this is a Louisiana station. This is exactly what they do, and it's crazy as all hell. Because if you go on Twitter or X and you look at the comments, look at the majority of the people that liked it. All of them were LSU. Majority of them were either LSU fans, Georgia fans, or Auburn fans. That's the majority of their fan base. The fact that people are even celebrating, oh, wow, yeah, Alabama really actually took a kid that was committed to SMU without even knowing who this quarterback actually is, without even having a fact check. That just tells you all you need to know, man. I mean, people hate Bama. People want to see us fail. But like you just said, Todd, the fact that people just, they can't even take 30 seconds out of their day to do their research, to know who this kid is. That's just an absolute shame. This guy coming into this year, guys, he had a higher ranking at this point than Tua did. Like, Tua ended up being a 5-star, but he was not a 5-star in the beginning of the process. Kelin Russell right now is a fringe 5-star player. He's a fringe. So it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. We know what this is. It's all for clicks and views, all for engagement. They got what they wanted. They got their attention. Listen, I'm going soft on his ass. My video that I'm gonna be posting up after we get done with this is way worse. If you guys want to check that out, make sure to check out Jan Sports. But it is what it is.
And Jake, before I pass it to you, Stephen G shouted out Bryce Underwood, said he is a heck of a prospect. You're 100% right, Stephen. Listen, I'm going to give it to you straight. Bryce Underwood is a monster, an absolute phenom, a monster. I think he's going to kill it at the college level. I'm not here to shy away from facts. And then Seventh Lord says, or Tar Heeled Sooner saying, can I take a second to shout out he didn't finish it, but I am going to assume he's meaning the Oklahoma softball team who won 4 straight national championships. That's just insane. That's just incredible. That's what this is all about. We all pursue perfection. They achieved it. They achieved it. Unbelievable 4 years. I can't even say unbelievable year because that would be reductionist. Unbelievable 4-year stretch. I mean, what else can you say? That is dominance at the highest level, and I love that. Jake, I'm going to pass it to you.
Yo. Good morning to everybody, man. Like, this is it's nice to be in. You guys see, I got this new unique background. It's not virtual. It's real. It's real. So yeah, it's pretty freaking wild, right? And I don't know. It's all right. It's cool. It needs some changing. But yeah, no, it's good to be in here. I heard you guys going off on Matt Moscano. Sorry, I'm a little late, guys. I apologize. My alarm didn't go off on time. This asshole was late today. Everyone can get mad at me for that one. But no, man, it's just cool to be in here with the guys. Dude, Coach Sean, we missed you, man. Jay, we missed you.
Yeah. Likewise,
I got to
brother.
see Ty earlier in the week. If you guys didn't catch the videos, chat, go back and watch those badass videos we did. We kicked ass in those videos. I'll tell you what, man.
Caden Proctor liked your tweet about the video we did on him.
So did his mama. So we appreciate that, Mama Proctor. 100%.
Shout out to Caden
and you,
and his
AP. Woo! I love it, man. But yeah, the Matt stuff. It's just I'll be real brief on that. It was literally done for clicks, and whoever, I think the information was his team wrote up the information, and they screwed him because they gave him all the wrong stuff. So it's kind of a joke. And then it literally, man, it was just like this. I'm going to be honest. I think he was trying to go after Bama, but it came across real low and shady, and like just. I mean, it kind of killed some character and integrity because you used a 17-year-old kid to do it. That's a joke. Don't do that. That's really bad. That looks bad when you're an adult man. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't do that. So I think he takes his heat on that, but it is what it is. As far as OU softball, though, you know, Pate brought up a point. Four championships for those seniors who've been there 4 years. They have 4 national championships. 4. That's that. How about to walk out of your career like insane. Being like, dude, I got 4 total championships in 4 years. Like, you're just a badass. You know, it's kind of it makes you. I mean, some guys get pissed off, and that's probably why you go back and look at like a guy like Matt, right? You know, like I tell you, like he probably got pissed off because that's a lot like Alabama's football, right? You got when it's dominating. Basically, you got guys walking out of there who have 2. Do we have one where we have 3 potentially guys with 3 national championships from Alabama, or just 2?
I didn't. I'm trying to think of the year because they had back to back.
Just anybody, or just anybody, or just are we talking like?
Well, no. You look at the time frame with Saban.
Oh yeah, right? We got.
Like,
I mean,
you know, I'm trying to think of a player. Did McCarron end up leaving with 3?
Yeah,
5 years. 5 years there total, right?
Yeah, McCarron got 3. Who else got 3? No, Dante got 2.
3. Brensky says 3. The 09 class.
Yeah, if you were a part of the 09 class and you stayed for your entirety, then yeah, you got it.
There you go. I mean, the only other sport you could say besides maybe what would be another one in college?
UConn women's basketball.
Oh yeah. Dude, that coach is a man. Have you listened to him talk? You want to talk about like philosophy and the way they recruit and look at people. Dude, there's a video out. UConn women's basketball coach, the guy, phenomenal, right? He was phenomenal. But he talks about like what they look for in recruits. He's like, if we see somebody who we pay attention to their body language and everything they do, even during the game when they're on the sideline. And if he goes, we see anyone pouting, he goes like either A, they're going to work and they're going to find either a way off this team, or B, even in recruiting, he goes, we're paying attention to all. He goes, great, you can be the best player ever, but if you come in here as a cancer to the team, we don't want you. He goes, I don't care how good you are. He goes, and that's the problem today. He goes, everyone wants to just go after talent. He goes, you know what? Talent's interesting because when talent doesn't work hard, right? Hard work beats it. And I know that quote is opposite, but I just said it in my style. But I'll tell you, man, like that's a cool thing to think about. I think that's too, it's funny because we go into some of this recruiting just this morning and looking at, because Alabama has a huge recruiting weekend right now. I don't know if you guys touched on this already, Ty, but
No.
Man, you want to talk about big recruiting weekend, right? I mean, we got Dawson Merritt's here. Oh man, I'm excited about that. I think don't we have, I think it's also the weekend for, I'd have to go back and look at the two of them, but I know Lynn tweeted something out too. Shaney felt, because he was talking about the recruiting weekend and some of the NIL stuff, which was kind of cool, but in the collective. But I mean, as far as getting some of the guys that they want, like they're really talking about like, okay, focus on offensive linemen. Are we getting our cornerback? We have some really big pushes towards some D linemen too, which is interesting. We kept hearing comments, right, about we got too many quarterbacks, we got too many of this. Like, when are we going to see defense? Like, dude, just give it a minute. It's still early in the recruiting season, you know. So,
God, yeah,
it's just exciting, man. But you look at Alabama and what they go after, and they aren't necessarily sitting there going after guys who everyone's going, yeah, they go after the top guys, no doubt. But a lot of it is down to, besides the talent aspect, I think obviously that plays a part, but what's their character like? Like, who are these guys as people? How do they fit into what we want our team to focus on? And that's really that mindset around family, right? And coming together and winning as one, you know, playing for each other. I mean, there's something to be said about that, right? Like, truly. I mean, that's you get legends are made out of that. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait to see how the weekend goes with recruiting too.
Oh,
I just feel like Alabama has momentum.
Well, and
You know?
here's Lynn, if
Dawson
you're still
Merritt.
in here. Dawson Merritt, Lynn, if you're still in
Yeah.
here, I'm looking at your tweet. You say Ty Haywood not official. Is Ty Haywood back?
Yeah, because he was just here. But I mean,
If he came back,
I know.
that's gonna get me fired up.
Yeah, he was here on the 34th. I don't think he's. I mean, it could be. I mean, it's a possibility.
Well, and then you guys heard about Naeem Offord too, who's the number one cornerback, basically.
Mhm.
You guys, I mean, it's impressive. They got him at unofficial, and now he's going to take an OV. You know,
Yeah,
so
he popped up this week and then decided that, hey, this is intriguing. I'm gonna official this weekend. So that's nice. He's in the state. Now, I do know there was some talk that maybe he wanted to see something different. And listen, that's always a principled stance, right? I remember a few years ago, gentlemen, there was a player in the Oklahoma region, and it was By Job. Really talented cat, very, very gifted. And a lot of people were at the time, whenever he went to Michigan State, they were like, oh, see, Brent Venables can't land this guy. And I was like, y'all are being absolutely ridiculous.
yeah.
There are certain kids that if they say, hey, I want to go see something different, there's nothing you can do. That's a principled reason to go somewhere else. Like, if you want to see something different, experience, that's all well and good. That doesn't mean that Brent Venables can't recruit. Brent Venables is getting top 10 class after the guy can recruit his tail off. Like, come on now.
Yeah, they're doing some work right now. I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah, what are they, top 5 right now in recruiting? And I mean, just fantastic stuff by that staff. We'll touch on them whenever we talk to teams that could shock college football, but we'll sideline that. But it was kind of that same motion for Offord. Like, if he wants to leave the state and see something new, we'll see. We'll see. Jermaine saying McDonald, Chuck McDonald out of
Yeah.
modern day, number 76 player in the nation, number 9 quarterback, number 7 California, 6 foot, 190 pounds.
Dude.
Very
Yeah.
talented. Saying that he is expected to cancel all visits and return to Bama on his own dime. That's awesome to hear. Steven saying bye, Job is 100%. And that's the point I'm making, Steven, right? Like, if someone wants to go see something different, that's not conducive to the staff not being able to lock it down, not being able to recruit. Some kids just want to see something different. Some kids want to stay home. And it's all perfectly reasonable.
I'll say, can you blame some of these kids? I mean, a lot of these kids come like from small towns, and they just, they sometimes they don't want to be stuck in a region, in a regional area. They want to go out, explore, go to some of the bigger cities or some of the bigger college towns, and go ahead and live it up.
Well, dude, I came from a small town. Look at that. Look at the shout out for Coach Sean. Hey, Coach Sean, for those who don't know what JCSH and A2 Eagles, can you explain? Because you said it a couple times, and I know some guys have jumped in and shout out, because I know you guys are ballers. So I have to I want to hear you explain real quick.
JCHS is James Clemens High School, and A2 Eagles was our 7-on-17. Shout out to Jonathan Wiggins, man, Keyway LA, love you to death, little bro. University of North Alabama football player, UNA, came from the program. Shout out to his whole family. Shout out to Brenda, his mom. Shout out to his dad. Shout out to all those kids who came from the program, man, who doing big things now and in college and furthering their ability to make their quality of life better here in a few years, man. God is good. Shout out to all you guys. You guys made Coach Sean. Coach Sean was just a regular dude who knew a little bit about football. Always helps when you got the X's and the O's and the Jimmys and the Joes. And that was a Jimmy and a Joe. Trust me. 6'2", 180, 437 40, and an absolute monster. Trust me.
I love
Shout out to
it.
y'all, man.
Dude, that's awesome, man. I love that. That's what I'm talking about. That's so cool, man. You guys come back. You want to know how like coaches touch people's lives, and you want to know why we're getting these recruits. It's very similar to what you just said, Coach Sean, is what you did. You know what I'm saying? You get in there, you get to do your thing, and we all know how smart you are when it comes to football. So I love hey, I know you're humble, brother, but I'm gonna give it to you, man. Like, we all know how great you are when it comes to this. But you get these coaches like yourself, but we get to Alabama, and very much you have a very similar approach to the way these kids are feeling. And you're seeing, I mean, you want to talk about kids coming in and being like, whoa, look at this. Like, I thought I saw everything with Alabama. And I sorry, guys, the sun's actually coming up in Washington, so you're seeing my face.
I just thought you were like clairvoyant.
Whoa. Every morning, dude, when we do the morning shows, I say something and God just shines down, and says, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you this morning. No, seriously, though, I appreciate him a lot, because I wouldn't even be on here if it wasn't for him. But and all glory to God. In the end of the day, what it comes down to is these kids feel that love. I mean, look at this. Have you guys looked at McDonald? Have you guys seen the photo? This guy's buff.
He's physical.
For a cornerback, he's very physical. But dang, man, this guy he's buff. And he's going to be a stud. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look at his film. Yeah, there's things that you kind of work on. Looks like Mal Waldrip is here now, I think, too, which is if I'm correct, that's the offensive tackle we're looking at. That's who it is for this weekend. But this guy's really strong. I mean, you look then also, because we do need, I would say, a minimum of 2 corners for this class. So if we get McDonald, then who's our other guy? And we've all talked about him, and who I truly believe they're building the California connection, baby. I'm all about the California connection in Alabama, because you're getting some dudes coming out of there right now. Some dudes. And it goes, Florida, Texas. I don't think Alabama obviously gets enough credit for the athletes they have. I mean, I think their athletes are off the charts. Like, I'm starting to really, people are doing a good job of getting the notice of Alabama high school athletes, but like it rotates though from the major states of Florida, Texas, and California. You do you guys feel that way with the recruiting? Like you see like the shift in rotation every once in a while.
Georgia too. Georgia's
yeah,
loaded.
Georgia's
yeah,
loaded.
Georgia. Yep. That's a good point.
Happens
man.
every single year, especially when it comes to like national high school football. Like remember when Booker T. Washington were like the national champions? Now Booker T's a good school, but it's not.
It is
nowhere near the best. Now it's modern day. Modern day was. Remember, De La Salle was the top of the top. They were the top of the cream, and they had all.
De La Salle, man. Well, IMG.
Yep,
dude, in Florida. But I mean, well, shoot though, Duncanville, man. Like I'm.
Oh my God, they were garbage. They were.
I know, but you look at now. Whoa. Ty, you speak to that.
Thompson.
Yeah.
Thompson was terrible until they got. I forgot what his name was, but until they got him in, and then they got Talia, and then once Talia came in, that program just took off. Now they're, dominating the state. It was that was Hoover State all day, all day.
Oh, dude, isn't that crazy to see the trends through high school? Like to watch even like on a national basis, year to year. See like the downside on maybe some schools, and then all of a sudden you have this massive swing back to these, and you're seeing right now. I think California and Florida is really getting like a lot of the national attention. I feel like from maybe a defensive back / athlete positions, as far as like your skilled positions, but then you look at Texas and I guess who would be the other state right now that you guys feel like has
Florida.
a heavy Georgia? Well, yeah,
Georgia.
Florida.
So
but
a few years
Georgia,
ago, if you looked at the top 300 prospects in the nation, 107 of them came from Florida and Texas. So a third of the top 300 came from just those two states. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I'll give you another state that's quietly, they don't have a lot of big high schools. They have a few, obviously. Same with Mississippi, but Louisiana has a lot of good prospects.
That skill position,
but
heaven.
Skill position. A lot of those kids in Louisiana doesn't camp a lot. I've actually, a lot of those top kids that you see, if you see them when they go to LSU, a lot of those kids are better than what they're ranked because several of them don't camp a lot. They don't camp a lot like Texas and sometimes Georgia. Same with Mississippi. Mississippi doesn't have a lot of kids to do a lot of camping. They camp, but not on the level of a Texas or some of these other states. But Louisiana and Mississippi, telling you, man, Mississippi in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, those kids some tough kids, man. I promise.
You know why Louisiana doesn't do a lot of camping, because a lot of the programs or a lot of the people there, they intentionally don't do it because they want LSU and UMN. They want a lot of
know about them.
Yeah, they want to sit there and say, because that's what New York State did for a long time with because we got so many talented kids here, but they never really if you were from New York State, you went to Syracuse or you went to UB. Ohio 10 years ago, they just started implementing a lot of those camps. That's why a lot of those kids, if you were from the state of Ohio, even though you could have gone anywhere else in the country, you were locked in on Ohio State or Michigan. Or if you were if you're on the borderline there, these places they'll intentionally do that just so you to kind of limit you to one thing. That's why Louisiana that's why it's called the fence. That's why they wrap the fence around that state and make sure that nobody comes in there and takes those kids until Nick Saban broke the barrier. Broke the barrier and started he got these kids to go out of state and visit and go to more visitations and camps. He started that trend. And then that's when, Texas is famous for getting a lot of kids from Louisiana. TCU's famous for getting a lot of kids from Louisiana, so these states, man, it's the business aspect again of trying to trap these kids just for them to go to university, man. It still exists there.
I mean, it might exist, but it's gone. Social media
now
it's that real quick.
It's gone now.
Nope. You're not trapping nobody anymore.
No, the only way you knew about camps, man, was from like a magazine, or you had somebody, or your coaches would tell you like, hey, get ready for this camp. They'll give you information. Nowadays, you got the information off the grip. You don't have to rely on your coaches anymore to feature the
They have
information.
websites for it, full websites, itineraries, the whole
Seriously.
9, invites, the whole 9, man. I know I've been involved with several camps. Just went to one a few months ago.
Okay.
The camp scene is a full-blown thing now. Like, it's a full-blown thing.
Which is wild. Like,
wanted to give a
Go
shout out real quick to Brandon Wilkins with the 1999. He says, I'm late, but I'm here. Roll Tide. Shout out everybody in the chat. Kareem Hood also with the $5.
Kareem.
Boomer asks if I'm going to be at the OU Texas game. I'm going to try. We'll see, but I'm not going to promise because I might not even be in this area at that time. So remains to be seen. Neo says, how about them Sooners last night? Yeah, Neo, we talked about that just a few moments ago. That level of domination is just absolutely incredible. 4 in a row. Steven put in the chat that they have 8 under Coach Patty, which is just insane.
God.
Just insane.
Crazy.
What was their record?
I have no idea, but I
Is
think Kim Hurst put in here that they have never been run ruled and they have never not scored, I think, on their current run with Patty, which is just insane.
Whoa. Like it. Well, and you look at how many games they play. That's what I'm trying to say. I actually think their record is extremely impressive.
Boomer says it was a down year.
Yeah, they lost games. I must say last year I think they went. Well, I don't think they went undefeated, but they were close to it. They were close to perfect last year.
Was it out of how many games is it out? 70 something, I think. I think there's 70 something games. I think. I know I was trying to look it up too, but like you got to just, again, once you get a process in place, like people do not realize like how important a process in finding the right pieces for your process. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a business, it doesn't matter, like even family stuff, right? You can work out a lot of family things. I mean, the Bible talks about making sure you take care of your home first, right? Before you're out there doing all these other things, that at home, that's where that needs to be solid. You need to make sure that success is inside those doors, right? That you're doing everything you can for your family and that you guys are coming together, because if you don't have it there, then outside things are going to go crazy and they're not going to work the way you want them to. So you look at, I guess what I'm talking about by that is this process, and really understanding the process and how implementing it into a program, a business, a team, doesn't matter what level. If you had that right process, you know the right pieces, then man, tell you what, you can find crazy. I mean, look, New England Patriots, Belichick's process, Nick Saban, his process, right? Here at Alabama. I mean, and you can look all the way back. Don James had a process at University of Washington, but I mean, so did, Barry Schweitzer from Oklahoma, right? So all these different teams, I mean, look at Notre Dame for so long. They dominated, football on the scene, their history and their depth of it, right? So there's a lot of teams you could speak of. So it's very interesting to see, like with Oklahoma in the current day and age, especially how hard that is to do. But once it's implemented, you see this massive success.
And, Chicken has an interesting comment saying we only win because we play the Natty in Oklahoma. He's being facetious. It's fascinating.
I know.
Because there was a forum, I don't know whether it was On 3 or 24/7 Sports, but it was on the Alabama forum. And someone made that post. They got torn. And I know, Chicken, obviously you're being sarcastic, right? Like you're being, but someone made that post on one of these forums. I forget where it was. And the Bama fans came in there and were like, nah, like you still got to get there, first off. And 2, they kept giving the example, and correctly so. The SEC championship game is in Georgia. And every time Bama plays Georgia, they're like, they have good results. So it's like, okay, yeah, it's in your state. But like, if that's the case, why doesn't Creighton dominate the college football World Series, right? Like, and once again, Chicken, I obviously know you're being facetious, but I did want to get this on record. That's ridiculous. I don't care where the game is played. The beautiful thing about sports, and I'm going to liken this and then we'll answer some questions. that I have highlighted. There, I'm going to take you back to the year where Cam Newton won the MVP, was dabbing on everybody. And you had people in the NFL, actual players being like, oh, that dance, it's disrespectful. And guys, I don't know what y'all thought about that, but I was almost furious that people would take that, because I was in my mind, I was like, football is a beautiful game because you have every opportunity to stop him. He didn't dab in the Super Bowl because Denver stopped him. You don't want him to dab on you? Don't let him score. It's very simple. There's cause and effect. Stop it. They couldn't. You're mad not that he's dancing on you. You're mad that he's dominating you. That's what you're mad at, right? Like, and I think that same type of logic goes right here. People aren't mad that it's in Oklahoma. They're mad because where are we going to put it? Okay, if we put it in Texas, now they're going to say the same thing. Now there's a principled argument for it to be the same type of thing with, the Texas teams. Like, no matter where we put it, we're just going to continue move the needle. The same argument will apply. I don't know. It's kind of wild to me. Coach Sean, wanted to pass you this one right here. Stephen G, fantastic contributor to the channel. He says, the only question I have about Bama is their defense. How is it going to be? Which I think is a fair question when you lose Nick Saban, right? Like, that's fair. Steven's an Oklahoma fan, so he probably hasn't seen our conversations talking about this. But Coach Sean, talk to us about the defense real quick.
I think the defense will be fine. My brother Jake is probably a better suited to answer this question. But in my humble opinion, I think by mid-season, these guys are going to be hitting on practically all cylinders. I mean, we got some early games that may be a little rough starting out, right? On the road to Wisconsin is really going to be important to really see how we and I don't mind us facing a little adversity in that game. I don't mind. I damn near hope we do, so we can really learn how to fight, right, with the game that's next on the schedule as far as after the bye week. I think the defense is going to be fine. Obviously, it's a little bit different. It's the same formation. It's the same. It's not going to be that different, obviously, as Jake has said several times. Some of the responsibilities may be a little different here and there, but I think we'll be fine, man. I think once these guys get in the groove, and it's like anything else, the more these guys play together, the more repetition, the more comfortable they'll be. We'll be fine. We have the athletes to be very good, and I think by season's end, Alabama will be better than a lot of people are giving us credit for.
Jake?
Oh yeah. Nah, Sean, you hit that you hit that right on the spot. And I would say, we have talked about this a lot. If you check out Coach Sean's channel, JMHO Sports Talk with Coach SBH, we actually talk about this in a video. You can scroll down and watch the video. Yeah. I know we've kind of hit on it several times, and I'm just saying I will tell you this. I think for everybody who has been concerned regarding the defense and been concerned regarding what we'll see, there are some changes, right? There are some unique little things that will make a difference. I think for the better, to be honest with you guys. I think this is the best defensive staff that Alabama's had in quite some time. So I think you're going to actually see this return to aggression and return to kind of dominance a little bit. But here's what in Jeremy Sanders, you say it, the D-line 100%. I think in both of the defenses that were being played, whether it was Saban's 3-4 pattern match zones, right, or man, because it was literally, because for those who don't know, pattern match is cover 3 and it changes to cover 1 based on the route tree or the route that is ran by 1, 2, or 3, and it's all meant to face like this 1 back or 0 backfields, right? 11 personnel or 10 personnel. Yep. So that's why it was created. And so that's how you can imagine, how do you run a cover 3 for those who don't know how it works? How do you run a cover 3 to a cover 1? There's a lot of little rules there that play into some things, and you got to have the dudes in the right spots to make that work just perfect. And if you don't have those guys, it can make it really, really hard. So like in key positions, right? Now the good thing is you'll still see a style of that defense, because that's what Saban really went from, was from like a true 3-4 to a 3-4 nickel, basically a hybrid defense. That's why you had these positions such as like a money or star, right?
Star, yeah.
And so you are going to see the same thing. Every defense is actually going this route. I've talked about this. Gosh, I think I talked about it possibly the other night. Last week I was on Hall of Fame college football with Jason and the coach. If you haven't followed that channel, it's a fun channel to listen to, man. Like we'll jump over there. I'll jump on there as a guest sometimes, as I kind of jump on all these different channels until I get my own going. But we talked about a little bit over there. Every defense you're seeing, just because of what the offense has evolved to as far as opening space and playing in space, all the defense have kind of gone this route. And I think you'll still see pattern match coverage styles, maybe not as much, but you're going to see some pattern match within this defense. But really what you're going to see is it's like, because man will still be ran, but you're going to definitely see more zone coverage, because if you have a spot drop zones, but it's vision and break coverage, allowing guys to utilize their speed and talent. It's not, no coverage is perfect. You have to remember that. Yes, there might be some youth, but the D line will play a huge part. But I do feel like we got the dudes, man. We have the dudes to bring that. And Womack calling plays again, I think he is freaking fired up. I'm excited, man. Oh man. So yeah.
Jay, you got anything to add to that?
Oh no.
I'm going to quickly answer Anthony's question right here. He says, Ty, with the scheme DeBoer runs an offense, to any of the quarterbacks that you guys have brought into the past few recruiting class fit this game? 100%. And one of the interesting things, Anthony, about DeBoer is that he oftentimes talks about how he modifies his scheme to fit his personnel, which is one of the beautiful things about having a guru, right? Like, there are certain coaches across the nation that I would put in like a top tier of their respective side. Steve Sarkisian, Lincoln Riley, and DeBoer all know offense like the back of their hand. That's why they can. Now, I will say I think Sark and DeBoer probably are more multiple in their looks. Lincoln is great whenever he has a quarterback that fits the mold of what his offense does, whereas I think Sark and DeBoer can be a little bit more diverse in what they bring to the table. Defensively, you have Kirby, you have BV, you have some of these guys out there that are just defensive wizards, and like they're going to be able to make their schemes work with the personnel as long as they have good players, right? Obviously, you got to, like Coach Sean said earlier, the Jimmies and the Joes just as much as the X's and the O's. So when you have both, that's when you can really be productive. But yeah, I actually, Anthony, dare I say, every quarterback on the roster has something that would benefit this scheme. Dylan Lonergan has got a lightning release. I mean, like, it's quick. That's going to be proficient because the quick passing game can eat people up, and he's an accurate quarterback. Ty Simpson has got a very talented arm. He's a mobile quarterback, which gives him the benefit of doing multiple things. Jalen Milroe, deep ball accuracy off the charts. Only one quarterback charted better than him in deep ball accuracy last season. That was the Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels. And now he's got an actual quarterback coach. 3 of them, Kalen DeBoer, Nick Sheridan, and Brian Ellis, who is with the tight ends, who has done amazing things at Western Kentucky, setting records with Bailey Zappi. So, and then you have Austin Mack. So I think every quarterback on this roster has something that they can play into in this scheme. I don't know why my camera keeps freezing, but here we are. This is the second time it's done it. So
really, dude.
It's just freezing. So I might be talking like this. Yeah, what are you gonna do?
It's all good, man. It's all good. Like, no worries. And then, and I mean, shoot, Ty, you're spot on with this offense. So offense is meant to be schemed around. I think, who just said it in here? Let me see here. Kareem, what up, dog? It's good to see you too, man. And I saw C-Dub. Good to see you too, man. There's a couple of names in here we haven't seen for a minute, but Yeah, they know. Cream, you said it. They know how to basically form their offense. And Coach Sean, you could speak to this, but you utilize what you have, right? Especially with them coming in, but you also, based on the talent you can get at that time in college, because it's a little different than high school. Because high school, you don't get to just go pick up talent. I mean, maybe you can because everyone's doing NIL stuff now with high school. So that's an interesting one. State of Florida. That's going to change the game quite a bit. Who's dominating who in high school? But yeah, you could speak to that, Coach Sean, as far as how you use that offense, especially a running back room.
Yeah. I mean, all facts. I mean, Ty kind of broke it down as well as it possibly can. Every team will obviously have different skill sets and different strengths and weaknesses. That's what make Caleb DeBoer. That's what make Sark. That's what make these guys so great. They can conform to whatever they have. Sometimes you're going to have better running backs than you do receivers. Sometimes your receivers are going to be dogs. Look at the ride outs. Sometimes, man, your strengths and weaknesses will be different. And you have to find a way to conform to that. You have to find a way to schematically put your offense in the best position. I tell people all the time, when I was playing, you put the best offensive talent on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you see high school, a lot of the faster, better athletes are playing defense, right? These guys are playing outside linebacker. Yeah, they're playing outside linebacker. They're playing safety. They're playing rover. They're playing all these different positions to get pressure on the quarterback and just cause havoc in trying to block these kids. That's why you see nowadays it's offensive line camps used to be the most boring thing ever. Right? If you ever been to an offensive line camp, Jake, you already know, Jance, Ty, these camp, like out of all positions, that was the position nobody really cared about. It'd be 6, 7 kids over there.
Sell these kids on the play. You couldn't sell these kids to play tackle. You had to beg these kids, the big kids, to play guard, center, tackle.
It's
and
true.
Yep. And all of a sudden, though, these players, man, Deion Dawkins, the Deion Dawkins of the world, Trent Williams, all these, Zach Martin, Quentin Nelson. They look at the contracts they got. Oh, now it's like one of the most overpopulated. It's like one of the most overpopulated positions in football camps. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants to be a tackle or a guard. It's crazy.
Yep. And it's crazy, Coach Jay. Oh, go ahead, Ty. Go ahead, babe.
No. Go ahead. I'm gonna hit a comment after you.
What I was saying was, now if you look at the camps now, the offensive defensive line guys have their own thing. Like they have an entire little series they go through. The offensive they'll have a defensive line camp, O-line camp, and there's 60 linemen there, man. So things have changed.
They have high school battles with matter of fact, the most famous one is Bosco versus Mater Dei. They literally have a series where it's only offensive linemen versus it's big men versus big men, and they're doing rope pulling and they're doing they're doing all these sort of contests and drills, and then literally a championship they have on with these camps is on the line.
Crazy, man.
It's crazy, yeah.
So that's what it is. That's what it is.
Boomer says Sark has one winning season and now he's a guru. He's had more than one winning season. He had a 10-win season, which is absolutely new to him. But just because you have taken over a program and are building on it doesn't not make you great at what you do. If we're talking about what Sark puts together offensively, yes, he's a guru. Much the same way, Boomer, how I put Brent Venables in the category of guru. But if we're utilizing your criteria right here, I would be careful, Boomer, in utilizing this criteria. Because if someone is after logical consistency, they will take this exact logic and say, okay, well, then Brent Venables can't be a defensive guru. Sark's offense was in the top 10. Brent Venables' defense was outside of the top 75 this past year. But there's nuance to this, right? Like Brent Venables didn't take over a team that was ready for him to just start ripping and rolling, and Lincoln gutted the team. It was an offensive-minded team that couldn't spell defense, and now they are really trending towards the most returning talent in the SEC, top 10 in the nation in returning talent. And when you look at the positions they return, I think that they're in for a big year. I think they're going to have a massive jump. But I would be careful with this line of logic, because this same line of logic could more aptly be turned on you being an Oklahoma fan. I said Venables was a defensive guru. That your line of logic would prevent Venables from being applauded for his defensive acumen. And that's where I would say I always go after logical consistency. And that's where I would be careful. Just because Sark has only had one 10-win season doesn't diminish his offensive acumen. Just because Brent Venables inherited a team that didn't know how to spell defense doesn't diminish his defensive acumen. Right? Like whenever Brent Venables is one has accolades, the other doesn't. What does he have, Boomer? What accolades does Venables have that Sark doesn't? They both have national championships doing their respective job. So that's what I'm saying. You're inherently putting yourself in a position that one is going to make it to where the other can't also be true. This is what I mean about logical consistency, right? And this is something I have trained in. 3 natties. Yeah, when he was under the Dabo Sweeney run with generational quarterbacks. Great defenses, but neither has won a national championship as a head coach. Steve Sarkisian has a national championship at Alabama, right? As a play caller, putting up the best offense in the nation. He just got done putting up a top 10 offense in the nation with Texas. I said he's an offensive guru. He was a top 10 offense in the nation at Texas. I said Brent Venables is a defensive guru. Under your own line of logic, he then couldn't be because he was outside the top 75 in total defense. But that's not what we're going to do because it's a nuanced conversation. So your own arguments open it up to diminish what Brent Venables has done if we are after logical consistency, and coming from the world I come from, logical consistency is everything to me. But yeah, both of them are absolute gurus at their respective areas. Lynn Shaneyfelt with the $50 saying, "This is for my guys who always do a great job. T-Town to hang with some of my fellow NIL donors. Guys, I will say this. I would love for Bama to get more 5 stars defensive line to visit. We getting beat for all these guys. If NIL let me get a coach like Bo Davis." Yeah, Bo Davis is a hell of a coach.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, though, Freddie Roach just got nominated as one of the top 3 recruiting coaches out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, Bo Davis, hell of a coach for sure. But, Freddie Roach, literally, 247 Sports just picked him as one of the top 3 recruiters in the nation. So
let me say this real quick, if I can, really quickly. Thank you, Lynn. First of all, thank you, Lynn. Roll Tide to you, brother. Thank you. To Boomer 129, I get it, man. You're an Oklahoma fan. I respect it. Oklahoma's awesome. I love Oklahoma. But if we just breaking it down to the nuts and bolts of football, right? Brent Venables is one of the best defensive minds in college football. That's how he got to Oklahoma, man. I would dare say Clemson was a whole team because of the defense. Sure, we all know their
100%.
quarterbacks were outstanding, but that defense was nasty, bro.
Nasty.
Right? And to show you, to make my point about Sark, I'm going to make it through Brent because you'll understand that better because of your alliance. Look at Clemson's defense now, right? Not bad, but certainly not of Brent Venables-esque, right? Brent Venables got the Oklahoma job based off his performance of being just that defensive guru, a la Steve Sarkisian. Steve Sarkisian is one of the best offensive guys in college football. Go ask Ohio State. When you give Steve Sarkisian time to analyze a defense, to put together a game plan, there's not many better than him, right? So if you understand that, what I said about Brent and why Brent is where he is, you damn sure better understand why Sark is where he is. It's not analyzing him as a head coach. We're analyzing him in his forte, offense. Same with Brent Venables. That's why Sark got the Texas job, because of the job he done with Alabama's offense. That's why Brent got the Oklahoma job. These are 2 very storied programs in Oklahoma and Alabama, and you pick great guys to run these kind of programs. This is not hot potatoes. This is Oklahoma and Alabama. So to pick these 2 guys for those jobs, you damn sure better recognize the fact that they both are definitely gurus in their respective football criteria. And that's just the fact. The truth is in the details, man.
Yeah, and we have an offensive guy that played college football on offense and a defensive guy who played college football on defense. And I think both of them would consider, and Jake played college. I think everybody on this panel, including the guy that didn't play college football, would include both Brent Venables as a guru in his respective category and Sark as a guru in his. This is my thing, man. I don't think we can name 5 to 6 better offensive minds than a Steve Sarkisian, right? Like there are great offensive minds out there, but Sark is brilliant in the way he formulates his offenses, right? Now, your conversation is more aimed at head coach. Nobody has said he's a head coaching guru. We said from an offensive play caller, the guy is brilliant, much like Brent Venables. From a defensive formulation standpoint, the guy is brilliant. That's where we put that line of logic to. But gentlemen, let's talk about teams that will shock college football. I'm interested in hearing from y'all. Coach Sean, I'll start with you. Who's a team that you look out? Doesn't have to be SEC. It can be from anywhere. And you look at and you're like, okay, yeah, I think you're going to turn heads this year in college football.
If I had to pick one that really, obviously we know Texas is going to be good, but Texas made the playoff. If I had to pick a team that I think is going to really put people on notice this year, and the conference didn't do them any justice with their schedule, I think Oklahoma is going to be very good this year, man. I think Oklahoma defensively is going to be better. I think offensively they're not going to fall off with that type of scheme. In college football, with the rules the way they are, you're going to be good on offense if you have the personnel and like-minded coaches, right? You can almost have mediocre talent in some places and still put up a good fighting offense with the way the rules are today, right? On defense. The rules support the offense, not the defense today. They want eyeballs. They want fannies in the seats. So I would definitely pick Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is going to play better than people give them credit for. I think if you switch the schedules and gave Oklahoma Texas schedule and gave Texas Oklahoma schedule, Oklahoma could possibly be definitely one to watch for the college football playoff. Those guys are going. I've said all along, the game against Oklahoma on the road worries me because I know that fan base. I understand the fan base. They got a lot of tradition. Those guys are going to pack that house. They have great coaches on that staff. A team like that is not going to suffer 2 or 3 seasons in a row. Give them time. Give Venables time to get his fingerprint on that thing. A lot of excitement going into the SEC, and I think Oklahoma is definitely going to shock some people this year.
Jay, I'll pass it to you.
I'm going to say Iowa. I think Iowa can shock a lot of people. Yeah, Zach, see? There it is. See?
Yeah. Thanks, Jay.
Yep. I think Iowa can shock a lot of people. I'm serious. Listen, I like Tim Lester. I like Tim Lester as an offensive coordinator. This is a guy that's from the area. He's been around for a long time. Was with the Green Bay Packers for a little. I think he was with the Packers last year. Came right back down. And listen, Kirk Ferentz is a fantastic coach. Obviously, I think you have Scott as your defensive coordinator. I'm trying to think of the name. Was it Scott or Scott? No, I'm sorry, Seth Wallace. Seth Wallace. Seth Wallace is one of the best. He's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. They have a great defensive staff put in place. Their secondary. I mean, you lost Cooper DeJean. You got 3 dudes. You got 3 other dudes in that secondary who are projected as top 50 picks. That secondary is ballers, defensive line wise. We all know they're one of the most underrated schools in the country in terms of producing defensive linemen. Offensive linemen, offensive linemen. They tried to get Caden. And listen, it is what it is. But listen, Iowa can develop talent. They got I think 3 out of 5 returning starters back there. But man, it's just their defense and their special teams literally carried them to 10 wins last year. I've never seen anything like that before. Like 2011 LSU's offense in 2011 wasn't that bad. Their offense could produce points, right? Our 2011 Alabama wasn't that bad offensively. We produced points. 2021 Georgia wasn't that bad offensively. They could produce points. This offense, I've never seen anything like it. So it can't be that bad. I also think too, you look at the Big Ten Conference. Yes, there's no divisions anymore, so it's not like Iowa's going to win the West and then they're going to go to there's no divisions anymore. However, though, I think their schedule is a little bit more favorable. I think with the addition of Tim Lester, the fact that this offense, this is not going to be this is not going to be that traditional pro style that they typically run. This is going to be a little more spread. It's going to be, they're going to form basically, new concepts that Kirk Francis never ever ran before on an Iowa team. And I think they got talent, right? They got a talented tight end who's a projected top 50 overall pick right now. They got some receivers that were former kind of 4-stars until they got relegated to 3-star talent. But I like some of the talent that's particularly there right now. It's just finding the quarterback and really learning to sink in that new offense, that new spread offense, right? That's what they have to do. But yeah, I mean, defensively, this is going to be a top 10 defense in college football, no doubt. Top 10 defense, not even a concern. The question is, how are they going to perform offensively? And if they could just be average, right? We talk about Oklahoma. If they just had an average defense, how many national championships they could have won. If Iowa simply just has an average offense, this is an Iowa football team that can win a lot of football games for you. I'm not saying they're going to win the Big Ten Conference, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Iowa's right back in a position where they're successful and they can win you around 9 or 10 games if their offense can just be a little bit better compared to what they were last year.
Love it. Now, Jake, gonna hit you with 2. I want to get your shocker, right? But I also want you to hit Adam's comment right here because Adam, I don't know if you have had the opportunity. Thank you very much for the $20. Jake and I actually did a video about 20 minutes long talking about this very topic. So Jake, I'm going to pass this to you. I got to go get my dog. She is barking her tail off. And I got to go calm the beast. So I'll be right back. Jake, start with Adam's comment and then get into your shocker.
All right, I got you. So Adam hit you up again. Thank you for that $20 super chat. I also saw we had another one too, so we'll get to that one as well. And I think that was Anthony. We'll get to yours too, Anthony, yours is kind of going to be answered. But Adam, so as far as last year's O-line, I don't think they were necessarily soft. I think what it was is they just were not meshing, right? Like there was a concept of what they wanted to do with that offense. And it's interesting. And you guys, Coach Sean, Jay, you guys probably could say the same thing. Watching the offense last year, it felt like there was what do we want to be our identification, right? What do we want to do? And maybe we're forcing some things, not sure on other things. It just felt like as far as a process, it was very up and down. Now we could say that was at times maybe the play in the indecisiveness on Milrose part, but that indecisiveness also comes from the psychological aspect of being rushed, right? And some poor offensive line play as far as protecting the passer and pass offs and blocking scheme, especially in creating a pocket. So I think there's a number of things. Now they did do a great job with run blocking, right? That's really what gave them that they probably should have stayed really deep into that going through the entire year instead of constantly trying to run block. Now we're going to take you and put you in a different mindset, right? And really lock it in, get them comfortable there, and then move into the others a little more smooth. I just don't think the transition from the run game to the pass game was that smooth. And I do not think the communication was done very well from a coaching side of things, and getting guys to transition and feel more comfortable transitioning. Not to mention, you bring up the fact that Kane Proctor, I really highly encourage you to go watch the video me and Ty did on Kane Proctor here at Around the Table Sports. For those in our chat who haven't seen it, it's a great video. It doesn't just speak to Kane Proctor. I think it speaks to everybody out there who has different opinions or thought processes on making decisions versus being disciplined in your decision process versus emotional decision making. It goes into also saying being honest, understanding when you made a mistake, forgiveness, and humility, right? Being vulnerable and loving your brother or your sister, in this world we live in. So there's a lot to be said. That video will answer a lot of the questions. What do schools do to help players with mental health issues? Because it sounds like this is kind of like a 3-pronged question. Honestly, I think it's something they're starting to identify. AFCA, which is a coaching association, right? AFCA is really just honestly, they just did an episode recently on mental health with football and some of the things they can do to help guys. Because today, especially in today's world, the youth, the kids are all being exposed to a lot more stuff that I'm going to be honest, as I was a kid, I wasn't exposed to that.
Great
A
point.
lot of other kids weren't exposed to it. But because we have social media and everybody's putting everything out there on the internet to see or within social media to see, kids have access to these things that they probably shouldn't have access to as quickly as they get that and get a very taste of reality almost too fast. They lose their innocence very quickly. Right. And so that spurs a lot of it. I mean, we have a lot of tension all the time between people, like 24/7. Everyone has one viewpoint, another person has another viewpoint, and they hate each other because two different viewpoints. Agree to disagree, but still be friends. There's no problem with that. Right. Like, so how do we, that's what I think the biggest message is every time we get on here and we talk about this is like from a standpoint, and this is why it is important from a mental health aspect, is how do we, as a fan base for college football in general, come together? Now, of course, there's those hated rivalries. It's fun, but remember, this is a game. That the game is beautiful because it teaches you lessons for life. The game ends. You become a fan. You can sit back and enjoy it. But there's a lot of life lessons that don't end. So that mental health aspect that you speak to, I think it stems from what's going on, I think nationwide in general, but also people see this now and it is being addressed. I think there's counselors, there's options, but sometimes people do a good job of hiding it too. And you just got to work through that. And honestly, it comes down to having a really great family. You have some really good friends and people that you can trust and be open and vulnerable to. So I think that's the key. As far as surprising teams after that heartfelt message by Around the Table Sports, you
By
know,
Jay.
nah, it's Around the Table Sports. Come on, guys. But I think my surprising team, I go back to what Coach Sean said, which it sucks because it's not necessarily surprising. Hold
Because
on.
OU's a blue blood, right? So like there is
Yeah,
a
I
certain
mean,
level of
it's not,
expectation.
yeah, when they say that, it's not necessarily surprising. But Oklahoma, I think, has pieces coming into the SEC that they're their mindset. I think that's the one thing I have a lot of respect for Oklahoma as a team, right? Is their mindset like has always been this, like they are tough ass MFs. You know what I'm saying? Like those dudes, and even under Lincoln Riley, who has a little different approach, right? But I'll tell you, man, the thing is, right, is these dudes at Oklahoma they play some ball. Like they come out and they want to smack you in the mouth. I think that's always been a MO for them. And I think that defensively, especially having BV Brent Venables there, and you see their new defensive coordinator who he studied under Brent Venables, but he's very, very aggressive. And their offensive coordinator comes from the Mike Leach background. He's going to be Seth Luttrell has a strong offensive mind. And you look at Jackson Arnold, what Seth does with the quarterbacks in general, and then you look at their wide receiver room, which is, if you don't follow some of these other channels, you can go and check out like Unfair Sports. Jay Unfair Sports does a great job. PG, the PG show, he does a great job on Oklahoma football. And then of course you have Jason and the coach over at Hall of Fame college football. Jason and the coach. They all Oklahoma based shows, but talk a lot of college football. But you can go listen to what they say, and man, they know their stuff. And I'll tell you right now, there's some really scary weapons they have. I think Oklahoma is poised to make and look at their schedule. I'm going to be honest with you. I think they're one of the toughest games Alabama's going to have. And that's just because of the style of defense they run and what they have offensively. I think, and we're at Oklahoma. I think it's going to be one of the toughest games in the schedule. So I think Oklahoma is where it's at, to be honest. I think they're better in Texas, to be honest. So
Ooh, they're gonna love that. Now, earlier we had I'm gonna see if I can find it. Someone had some questions about Texas. I apologize if I can't find it because Son of Thunder saying Texas lost too much. Son of Thunder, if you're still in here, I think Texas is going to be good. They have a schedule that affords them growth, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Oklahoma, they don't have much time. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they didn't do y'all any favors there. But I do agree with you here. That Texas secondary had issues last year. Yes, they beat Bama. No doubt about it. Hats off to you. But I was always so excited to see a rematch, not because I thought it was a guarantee that Alabama would win that game. That's not how I operate. But I always looked at it and I was like, okay, well, now Jalen has really grown throughout the year. We can test them deep. Like we can get the deep ball going. Can we not have Quinn put on an all-time performance against us? That's another question. But nonetheless, I do agree with you. They lost their interior presence. I still have questions about that secondary. They get some wide receivers in, no doubt about it. Real high on Jonte Cook. I think Ryan Wingo is going to be a problem. Isaiah Bond is out there. I don't look at any wide receiver they have. I think Wingo has the highest upside. Just keeping it a buck. He's got the size, the physicality, the speed. Like that guy. And Texas has got a really good wide receiver coach that came from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Wingo has the ability to really turn heads. I'm very excited about him. But year one, I don't look at that roster and like, okay, you've got some very talented guys, but do you have a Worthy? Do you have an AD Mitchell? And maybe you don't need it. They have a fantastic offensive line, but I do agree to some level, Son of Thunder. There are some areas where Texas lost that doesn't make me think that they're going to just fall off a cliff. I still think, once again, there will be good, but I do have questions. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, I've always told you, I will tell you if I have concerns. I have questions, and then there are concerns. Most people, when they say I have questions, they mean they have concerns. I have curiosities about what Texas will look like. I still think they will be good. Wanted to hit this right here because I think it kind of coincides with my answer because Coach Sean, because Jake, y'all kind of took mine. I was going to say OU, but at the same time, I was leaning towards not making that my answer. And the main reason is because if like Chicken, if he's still in here, Kim, if she's still in here, Boomer, if you're still in here, I take everything back, Jake. So Boomer 129 is hilarious, man.
You're welcome,
Coach Sean.
Boomy.
If you ever in the comments, Boomer 129 makes it his objective to make you laugh during the show.
Yeah, he's funny.
He's good at it, right? Dude's hilarious.
Got me some good ones.
But I think those guys and gals will tell you that I have been high on Oklahoma. I have been thinking they're going to do some nice things, and I have been thinking that they're going to surprise a lot of these SEC teams that think that they're getting a Baylor in Oklahoma. You're not. They're a blue blood for a reason. They have got a real solid coaching staff, and I understand Redmayne says horns up all day long. Yeah, Red, listen, I think y'all will be good, but I'm curious to see how y'all have mitigated some of those losses, and I'm curious to see how the secondary is going to improve, especially after losing some prospective starters and a Terrence Brooks, right? You already had questions there, and then you lose Brooks. That being said, Redmayne, I love Manny Muhammad. I think that guy is going to kill it in college football this year. Wouldn't be surprised at all if at the end of the year we're looking at some accolades for a Manny Muhammad. But because of that, I'm going to go with UCF in the Big 12.
Oh, I like it. Okay.
I think that there are certain teams out there that are going to a new conference that could win that conference day dot. I've talked about Utah. And if Cam Rising is healthy, it's going to be tough to stop Utah. But UCF, man, oh man. I think that when you look at some of the talent they've been able to get this offseason, if everything comes together, they could really make some waves in the Big 12. And shout out to Anthony. He says, my team in college football that's going to shock the world is Houston in the Big 12. That would be awesome, man. I have often said this, gentlemen, that I don't think that the Big 12 is the best conference. I don't. The SEC is clearly the best conference.
Yeah.
But top to bottom, in terms of entertainment, oh, the Big 12 is about to be so entertaining this year, especially if you're like an obsessive college football fan like any of us. Yes, you don't have the big brands. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I was about to say it, Miles, because the reason why I didn't want to say this school is because they're one of the favorites to win the conference now. But I love Arizona, man. Arizona's roster is really good, man. That's a very, very good roster they got, man. Decario Davis, Justin Flows about to be primed for a good year. You got, their offensive line is stacked. You got Jordan Samalavia, who's going to be a projected first round pick. You got Tatoria McMillan. Their quarterback, which by the way, that those kids went to Servite together. That's actually a cool story that they literally been playing together since the 7th grade, and they're still playing together in college. But that's possibly the best quarterback receiving duo, honestly, right now in the country. That team is loaded with a lot of talent, man. And so, South Florida with Gus is going to be. I'm sorry, Central Florida. I always get those two confused. Central Florida with Gus Malzahn. That's going to be really, really good. A lot of people will go with Colorado, of course. No one's talking about you with Kyle Whittingham. No one's talking about Utah. No one's ever talking about them in that conference. It's pretty
I picked them to win the conference for my way too early when we did a stream the other day. But because I picked them to win, I then can't come in here and say, oh, they're going to shock everybody if I've already told y'all they're going to win the conference. So UCF, though, is, and this is what I mean, Jay, you make such a good point. And Redmayne even backs it up. He says Utes and KU. Like, we can't forget about Kansas there. You can't forget about Kansas State there. UCF, Arizona, like the Big 12 is going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. A lot of fun. You don't have two teams over it that for the most part are head and shoulders above everybody now. And that's where I think it's very interesting, right? Let's hit some comments real fast. Anthony says, I live around a lot of Bama fans where I am in Florida, and we were talking the other day, and they feel that DeBoer is a 2 to 3 year placeholder until they find a better coach. Is a 2 to 3 year? Anthony, I would have those fans get checked.
Jeez, dude. Gosh, they don't look. If that's the case, I get so pissed off when I hear this. You have no idea. I cannot wait for the season to start. You have no idea what Kelin DeBoer can. Look what he did at Washington. Look what he did at Fresno State, even in a COVID year. It's a crap year. That's 3 of his losses come from a BS COVID year, which that season shouldn't even freaking count in general. Whoa. Okay. All right. Sorry, everybody. I'm getting off topic on this, but
Bama won a natty that year.
I know. It's true. I understand.
Easy.
It's a hard year for me. Okay. But you go back to, even him with less talent at what is it? South Dakota, right? At, what was that? Sioux Falls. At Sioux Falls. Okay. And what he does there in general, just in a course of, I mean, he goes like 60 something and 1. 60 something and 2, like wins multiple national championships. Okay, so you guys want to argue it's NAIA? Well, okay, but you still, there's this concept of the game, right? That the talent from a standpoint, right, of this your talent is facing similar talent there. So now we go in the SEC. Your talent is facing similar talent in the SEC. This mindset right here. Okay, he's gonna be fine. He has depth. There is depth there. Defensive line, you need the depth. This defense is going to rotate a lot. You guys are going to see a lot of rotation. Guys need to play fast. They need to stay fresh. The same thing goes for our wide receiver room. Like Saban, that wide receiver room is built. And Coach Sean, you could speak to this too. Is built for being versatile, play multiple positions. I mean, so man, when I hear this DeBoer thing, like, just look what he's done. Look at the staff he put together.
Who would have been a better option?
There's nobody.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, at this point, I don't even really get mad at these comments anymore. Unfortunately, there's, and this is for every fan base. This is for every college football fan base, especially if you're a hardcore college football fan. Like they don't do the research on. They have no idea who Kelin DeBoer actually is. They don't do the research. They don't know anything about his accolades. They don't know anything about his history. They just know for the most part that, okay, I've never heard of this coach before. He's going to be out here in 2 to 3 years instead of actually doing the proper research. And that's a lot. That's unfortunately for our community and for a lot of other fan bases. Like, Saban's been around for damn near 2 decades. He's been around for 2 decades. He's been around the SEC for almost 3 decades. That's who you know about. This is who you always know about. He's a household name throughout the sport. Kalen DeBoer isn't a household name to the sport, even though he is one of the best coaches he's one of the best coaches of this generation. He's still fairly new to a lot of college football fans, including a lot of Bama fans out there. So they just have no knowledge. Unfortunately, they have no ball knowledge in terms of knowing who Coach DeBoer is.
Yeah.
Well, we have some interesting comments. And Coach Sean, do you have anything you'd like to add to that? You're muted, Coach Sean. Happens every show. It wouldn't be a live show without that, and I'm just happy it wasn't me this time.
I just think that once the season starts, it'll stop. It'll stop. I don't even, it's kind of like what Coach Jay said. I don't even get mad at it. It's just people's unfamiliarity with this coach. His name outside of just the Washington doesn't ring bells unless you do your proper research on him. Once the season starts and Bama start putting belt to ass, all that'll go out the window. All that'll go out the window. As far as my man Lynn, shout out to Lynn too, my brother Lynn Shannonfeld.
Yep, Lynn, I wanted to get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, and KJ Cello asked, Coach Sean, do you see the top 10 wide receiver rooms and Bama was not on it? I was surprised. What's your take on it? I feel like it's one of our strong rooms. And again, Lynn, you know what it is? It's just that it's the unfamiliarity with Alabama right now. Without Coach Saban,
I agree.
Even people that's not trying to poke holes at Alabama are poking holes at Alabama. They forget Kobe Prentice is still in the room. They forget Kendrick Law is still in the room. They forget Emmanuel is in the room, a kid that's been injured but has as much potential as any receiver in that room. I get it. They're unproven with this coach, right? And they're not giving us the benefit of the doubt anymore, as we call it, the Saban discount, as we call it. So you have to accept all of this, even the wide receiver room. Everybody knows with a half a brain, if you're really being subjective, objective, Alabama's wide receiver room is one of the best in the country. It's definitely top 10, right? Definitely top 10. There's some guys in that wide receiver room that could start in other places, right? We didn't always put Jalen in a competent passing situation. Jalen had his struggles amongst himself, but we didn't always put him in a competent passing situation. We just didn't. A lot of our schemes weren't very competent against better competition. We had good games. We had games where we did call it right against LSU, who's defensively was inept. But Kentucky, on the road at Kentucky, Texas A&M, we had some games where we called the game the way it was supposed to be called and gave our wide receivers an opportunity to do what they do best. I can't say we've done that all the time. We panicked a lot. So I just personally feel, as far as the ranking, Lynn, I'll dare say it's justified until it's not, right? Coach Saban used to say, don't worry about what they say. You worry about having the opportunity to prove them wrong. They may feel our wide receiver room is not a top 10 room based on the new coach, the new offense. It's a lack of knowledge of what the hell we're going to be. You're right. And I have a little bit of that, right? I can assume this and assume that based off the criteria of film study, what we see in practice, but nobody really knows until they step on the field. So I think it's a lot of that. But I do think when the season starts, it'll be right back to being Bama. Once we start putting belt to ass on people, people will forget about all these doubts. Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that. Lynn is spot on with that. And I agree. The disrespect is real.
And before I go to this next one, I would like to add on to that, Coach. I'm not surprised, right? I think you make great points. But if I'm looking this as objectively as possible, they lost Burton. They lost Bond. Now, they did get in Bernard, who I think is going to be really, really good. Ryan Williams is a phenom. And then you look at Jefferson, who's great. Rico Scott, who's great. Bubba Hampton, who's very talented. E-Man's still there. You have Prentice. You have Law. God, if Jalen Hale hadn't have gotten hurt, I
That's a
mean, my
fact.
excitement for this room would be. But they're probably making this list off the notion that whenever they're looking for
Experience.
familiar faces, exactly,
Yeah.
Coach. Jalen Hale's hurt. Bond's not there anymore. Burton's in the NFL. I think that the talent in the room is exceptional, but I'm not exactly mad that they didn't crack the
me
top
too.
10 because
Me too.
I can understand. And Coach, I love what you said. Even if they're not intending to poke holes in Alabama, it's like, okay, well, that's the byproduct. And it's like, okay, fair, but this is one where I don't think it's like they're trying to like, ooh, bad Bama. I don't think that's the notion here. I do think that this is one where they don't know.
They don't
right?
know. Yeah.
And we think it's going to be much better than what we had last year. And that's not to poo-poo on any of the names we had last year. Very talented, but schematically, it should afford itself to be better. Plus, you still have some talented guys. So I understand it. Not that I necessarily agree, but I can easily see why maybe they weren't.
And let me say this before you pass it along very quickly. I would argue, if we really break the nuts and bolts down to it, that Alabama's wide receiver room has the potential to be better this year than it has in the last couple years.
I agree.
And this is no disrespect to Isaiah or Jermaine. Isaiah Bond didn't do so much for me to where I think he can't be replaceable by Kobe Prentice. Jermaine Burton, for as great as he played in some games and as bad as he played in others, he didn't do so much to where I don't think he can't be replaced by a Jalen Hale if he were healthy, or a Jermaine Jeremy Bernard. Or I think this wide receiver room has the potential, given a competent offense, to be more dangerous than we've had in the last couple of years. And I agree with you, Ty. It's just more of they hadn't seen it from these guys. So how can you rank them in the top 10? It's sort of disrespectful if you were a player on that roster, but I do get and I do understand where the ranking, I do get it.
And dare I say, I'm almost glad that it's that way.
Yeah.
Because, Coach, to your point, it's fuel.
Facts.
It's fuel, and I love it. Jermaine, would you mind sending me that? I checked, and I can see where Chuck McDonald has canceled a visit, but I haven't seen anything about Dejon Lee canceling a visit. If you could send me that via Twitter, that'd be fantastic. Adam with the $15 saying, when you're on the field, is there an obvious difference between someone who runs, say, a 4.6 versus someone a 4.4 or a 4.3 40, or do we place too much emphasis on that? Well, I can't speak to this one, so I'm going to pass it to the panel because I was a strong 7.5 40. And let me tell you what, blazing by people. No, I have no idea what my 40 would have been. Jake, I'll start with you on this one.
Is there a difference? It depends on how they translate speed to the field, because
that's what
there's guys who run, you could run a 4.6 and a 4.3 is actually a pretty big difference, but I mean, it's hard to drop even a couple of tenths of a second on a 40 unless you're young, real young, right? But once you get up to that point, probably by your junior year into your sophomore year of college, you can drop some, but you're not going to drop dramatic. As far as the way they translate that speed to the field, and Byron, good to see you, man. It's been a minute. But I'll tell you, like, you have to, lateral speed is almost more important than vertical speed, because if you can't play lateral, right, like, because there's given depths on the field, right? And Chicken, you're right. Like, I knew a guy, great examples. I knew a guy who I played against in high school, actually two guys who were track all-stars. I mean, you're talking like 10-4, 10-3, 10-2, like 100, right? And I ran a 4.8 40. So 4.5, sub 4.5. And I'll tell you, like, on the field, if they weren't able to translate that, then you actually didn't see much of a difference unless they got an open straight line shot, and then they could try to utilize that track speed. But when you put pads on and the way your body moves, it's more so like, how quick are you? How well do you understand angles? there's a lot of different aspects that go into the game. So I'll say there's a difference, but also not that much of a difference based on how the speed is utilized and how they're able to translate that into the gameplay, right? And so that's my answer to that.
Gentlemen, anything y'all want to add on to that?
Go ahead, Coach Jay. I definitely do. Go ahead, Coach Jay.
Yeah, I'll say I think Merrill touched on a lot of really good points. I mean, I've played with a lot of guys that were, they were sub 4, that there was not sub 4. I'm going too far, but there were sub 4.4 guys, sub 4.5 guys, and these, I mean, they couldn't really, that speed just couldn't really translate because they were too stiff, like laterally, way too stiff laterally. I mean, vertical speed, yes, that's great, but that's not a really. I mean, when you're on the football field, there's a lot of stop and go. There's a lot of points where your movement is going to be delayed just a tad bit, and then you have to find a way to sort of pick that momentum back up. And so, not a lot of people, that's kind of one of the biggest differences between a sport like track and field, where, you're running a 100 or 200 meter and you have full momentum to a point where you can pick up a bunch of speed, to a point where, compared to a sport, let's say like soccer or football, where you're constantly stopping. Rugby's another situation where you can kind of throw in that mix. You're constantly, trying to pick up your momentum again. And so lateral quickness and, having loose, being very, very loose with your movement, that's extremely important. I think in a way, I think that's kind of the reason why John Ross and, another, player, who broke the combine record. I think that's why John Ross couldn't really translate that well to the NFL, was because he was too stiff. That was one of his biggest concerns, especially when it came to his route running ability. He was a little bit too stiff. And you look at a guy like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. I mean, those are known as the fastest players in the NFL. Tyreek Hill never broke the 40 record, but he's one of the quickest players in the league. And his quickness matches with his speed, with his vertical speed. He just has the vertical speed to top it. And so that's why, like, a player like Worthy has question marks. Can he translate that speed over to the NFL? Because, it's, what is he like? What is he like in the lateral game? So, but it's that's just kind of what it's all about, most likely.
For me, let me answer it like this. You look in the nows and the histories of Alabama State track, 10.75. You know what I mean? Check that out. Check your boy out. You know what I mean? And I got third. You know what I mean? Listen.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's more important than a 4.6 or a 4.3 or 4. Short area quickness, man.
That's what matters. Yeah.
Listen, Cooper Kupp run like a 4.6, bro. You understand?
Yeah,
but his short area quickness is different than 95% of the NFL.
Cole Beasley ran 4.7. Quick.
That's a whole fact. Your short area quickness is what Jake and Jance are both hit it right on the head with. That to me is more important than what you run in the 40. I'll give you a perfect example. The kid from Auburn, I forgot his name 2 years ago. Kid was like a 10-200 meters. The punt returner kid.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. He came from.
I forgot his name.
He was
terrible.
Cal, Georgia. He went to Cal in Georgia, and then he went to Auburn.
He was terrible. He was terrible. Let's just be that he was terrible, right? Unless you get them the ball in space and you got one safety to beat, your 4.3 don't really mean much, right? Your 10.1, I won't say the 4.3 don't mean, your 10.3 don't mean much. Let me give you this example before I pass it. Usain Bolt run a 9, what was his record? 9.4, 9.5 in the 100 meters, right? That's short area quickness. Long. I mean, you run that fast in 100, you're fast. But if you have DBs coming at him from an angle, you don't really get an opportunity to use your speed. You don't really get an opportunity unless you get space, right? That's what Jake was speaking to. Your lateral movement is just as important as your straight line speed in football. It's not an even race, right? It's not we both start on the same line racing together. So your 4.6 and 4.3, that's a pretty big difference. But what makes up for the 4.3, 4.6 is angles, like Jake said. Your 4.3 and the 4, you're not outrunning me if you run a 4.3 and I run a low 4.6 if I got an angle on you. But your short area quickness will make me miss you, and then it turns into a race. So the short area quickness to me is what's more important. A la John Ross, who was super fast in the 40, but his short area quickness, he was too stiff hip, like Jay said. Short area quickness to me, Adam, is much more important than how fast you are straight line speed.
100%. And then we have Alexa with the $9.99. Thank you very much for the donation, Alexa. Thank you everybody for the donations. And we always want to try and hit as many comments, whether it's a donation or not, as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But as you guys, if you're in the comments, you can tell y'all are killing it, right? So it's hard to have the principled conversations, bring y'all some great discussions, and be as interactive as we could like. But what I will say is we all certainly appreciate the donations. We appreciate the comments because it makes the show even better. The show would be fine. It'd be a lot of fun if we just came on here and one thing, and everybody here could attest to this, I don't send these guys a script. There's nothing like it's just all, hey, let's come in here. And it's not even about like being the most knowledge. Like, let's just friends sitting at a table talking football. That's what this is meant to feel like. And just like when you're at the table with your friends talking football, y'all don't go to lunch with a printed out script of all the talking points you're going to have that day. You just talk football, and wherever the conversation takes you, it takes you. And I believe that this presents itself in high quality content because we are fans. We are one of you. The only difference between us and you is we chose to sit in front of a camera, in my case, that freezes every now and then and look real silly. But neither here nor there. Redmayne has some great comments about Gundy in the Big 12 conversation in terms of shocking people. You're not wrong, Redmayne. They have that running back coming back. They have the offensive line coming back. It's going to be really tough to stop the offense. I don't know, man. I always have a hesitation with Gundy, even though I know he's a really good coach when you look at what he does relative to the recruits he gets. But do I think they're going to win the Big 12? I wouldn't think so, but I'm always open to being wrong because that means I get to learn something on top of that. Did they lose any offensive line? If you're talking about Bama, they lost a few. If you're talking about Gundy, I don't believe they did. Jermaine says, Pearl on 3, Notre Dame safety commit ranked number 7 in the country is in Tuscaloosa for an official visit. I thought ND had the same policy as Clemson. I don't know if they do, to be honest. I don't know if they do. That's, I don't know.
Well, it doesn't matter if they have a policy because that doesn't that might be like a word of mouth. Like, okay, if you commit to us, we'd really appreciate it if you wouldn't take visits, but you can't stop a kid from taking visits. So I don't even know why they would implement that. You know what I'm saying? I haven't necessarily heard of that. Okay, so if you take a visit, do we move your scholarship?
There are places that do that.
I know that's the case, and that's part of the game. Like, you take that risk, but I mean, if you're taking that official visit elsewhere, like, you want to see what it's about. Maybe you want to just enjoy the recruiting process. There's a lot of different aspects to it. It's hard because official visits can make a huge impact, right? But at the same time,
Venables has a policy like that. Now, Venables, he's far more successful in it than Dabo is. Far more successful in it. And maybe there's other reasons, right? Like, and someone earlier, and I want to get to this before we get to our last segment. Someone asked why I didn't put Dabo in the guru conversation.
Yeah.
It's because Clemson's offenses have been bunk for too many years now for me to just say, like, Dabo's there, right?
Yeah.
It's not a rebuild at this point. He didn't inherit Clemson 3 years ago, right? Like, with Brent Venables, if anybody is a Brent Venables detractor and they're like, oh, well, how can you give him this when the building? Like, he's rebuilding a team. OU was good, no doubt. Lincoln gutted the team, and it was not a defensive-minded team, right? He had to rebuild to make it in his own image, right? Like, in a hard-nosed SEC. He's been building it into an SEC team, to be quite frank with you. That's what's been happening. That doesn't happen overnight. So we give Venables the benefit of the doubt. We talk about it with nuance. Sark had to redo a culture at Texas, a culture that from the outside looking in, and I could be wrong, felt like they thought that they were supposed to be handed the accolades at the end of every year. And Sark and Bo Davis, I mean, Bo Davis had that rant on the bus where he was screaming at them saying, I'm a winner. I didn't come here to lose. I came here to win. And I mean, I think that that was exactly what Texas needed. That was exactly what the Longhorns needed. As I froze one more time, this is just a lot of, at least this one isn't as unfortunate as a freeze frame, right? It could have been a lot worse, but
Hey, man, it's all good.
Dabo had great quarterbacks, and I don't blame Dabo for having great quarterbacks. That's the name of the game. You recruit, you get good players, and then you do good things with them. And he did that. But the Clemson defenses were always fantastic under Brent Venables, right? And so I can't give him that guru status, but Ty was kidnapped. I absolutely was. Yeah. Was a paper tiger under Lincoln. I think you're 100% right, Chicken. I do think you're 100% right on that. Gentlemen, I wanted to move into this last topic with our final 10 minutes as we're approaching an hour and 50 minutes. USC, are they in trouble? The reason why I ask this is they move into the Big Ten. Now, understand, if any USC fan watches this, didn't Bo Davis go to LSU? He did, Chicken. And that's going to be interesting to see how they mitigate that. My only point with that was that Bo Davis was very positive for the culture of Texas. And that's one thing, like, I think that Sark has done a good job with, is kind of rewriting the culture that was at Texas, because I do feel like it was very like, oh, well, just because of the logo on our helmets, we're supposed to be almost given results, right? And he's kind of redone that. How that turns out, I don't know, but you cannot start building upon something with a bad foundation. And I think from a foundation standpoint, he's done a good job of shoring up the foundation, and now it's about building, right? DeBoer does a great job of this. Brent Venables has done a fantastic job of this. Bo Davis, though, I think was very key to helping Sark do that. But talking USC, gentlemen, the reason why I want, and shout out to Run the Table Sports TV, shout out to Brinsky
Bear.
But they moved to the Big Ten. And for any USC fan watching this, I want to be 100% fair. I think that y'all's current recruiting class is building something very impressive, but we all know with recruiting, it's about holding on to it until signing day and then continuing to recruit the guys even when they're on your roster. Yeah. I love the hires USC has made. I talked about this the other day. Hiring Matt Entz puts a little bit more pressure on Lincoln Riley. Matt Entz was the head coach of North Dakota State. He's the defensive coach there, not the defensive coordinator, but he's the co-defensive coordinator. I forget what the title is exactly. USC going into the Big Ten, I tried to find the list, gentlemen. I couldn't find it to save my life, but they had them at number 5 projected in the Big Ten. I'm not saying that's not good enough, but at the same time, that's not where you want to be.
Yeah.
Michigan lost a lot. You want to be better than Michigan. Penn State, you want to be better than Penn State, right? Especially with all the stuff going on in the background at Penn State right now. You have Miller Moss. You lose Caleb Williams. Now, Miller Moss is a talented cat. I think that he is a quarterback you can win with. But even though I love, and I completely agree, Lynn was a great hire. He has made great hires. The USC administration in Lincoln made great hires on the defensive side. Assistant head coach, linebackers coach. Thank you very much, Chicken. Thank you very much for that. They've made great hires on the defensive side. Is it enough? Or will they be in trouble going into the Big Ten? I love what they're building for 2025 in that recruiting class. I think they're recruiting very well. But if you don't give these kids something to believe in 2024, will they sign? Coach Sean, I pass it to you.
I don't think Lincoln Riley has a mental capacity. I don't want to say capacity. I don't think Lincoln has a trying to figure out the best word.
Understanding
a mental focus, on defense. I mean, dude, the truth is in the details. He was at Oklahoma when they were awesome. Their defense weren't very good any of those years. They were okay sometimes, but until he played like-minded competition, I remember LSU putting 40 points on these dudes in the half. Joe Burrow and them, right? Against Jalen Hurts and them, right? That wasn't the offense's fault. The offense got outplayed, but the defense didn't do nada, right? I don't even remember the last defense Lincoln Riley had that was worth a damn, respectfully to Lincoln. I think he put so much focus on the offense that I don't know if his coaching abilities can sustain a capable 12 game a season defense. Well, the league he's about to go to, your elements, sure, you play in Washington, you play in Oregon in the Pac-12. It's some cold places up there, but not like you about to go to now, where it might be 2 foot of snow and y'all still play. The field look okay. I mean, playing in Rutgers, at some point you're gonna have to go to New Jersey. Might not be this year. Some point you're gonna have to go to Maryland. You're gonna have a back-to-back where you got to go to New Jersey, Maryland, or Penn State or Michigan, and possibly Wisconsin at some point. Some point during the road game, you're gonna have to go on the road and play these guys. And I'm just not sure about that coach, man. He's great offensively. We all know that. I think it's a part of the reason he did not want to know parts of the SEC. I don't hate on him for that, right? But at the same time, he understood your philosophy is going to struggle in that league unless you completely change it. You got to play defense in that league. Well, the Big Ten is not far off. You got to play defense in that league. Doesn't matter if you had Caleb Williams, for God's sake, man. You had Caleb Williams. You had all these great offensive pieces. You got to play defense, man, or you're going to have an 8-game season, 7-game season. So, no, I don't have no faith in Lincoln Riley when it comes to a complete football team. I think they'll be good offensively. I think they got great young talent, great coaches coming in there. I just like Miami. I don't have no faith, man, in him on the defensive side of the ball to put a complete football team on the football field.
I don't have any faith in Mario Cristobal to kneel the damn ball to win a game because it's happened twice. How? Oh my God. I can't start on that. Coach Sean, I think I've told you this before, but Jance was here. He was here. Jake, we didn't have the benefit of being able to do content with our guy Jake at this time, but Jance was here. I melted down on Monday talking about Mario Cristobal. I busted a gasket talking about that. I was so angry. I couldn't believe it. And it's not the first time. Oh man, that was bad.
You know the game. You kneel it. You won the game. It's like you get in the victory formation. You kneel it. It's over, and you want to do it.
Okay, not to derail the conversation, Lynn with the $20 saying, I think our biggest recruiting week will be game week 4 against UGA in our house. We win that game, and we will get the attention of all the 5 stars that are waiting to see if Bama is going to be Bama. We need to win that game. I don't disagree at all. You know, we've had conversations, I think, talking about what the most key game is, or the game that you don't want to lose. And I definitely think I from a standpoint of like, I had a different one. I think it was Auburn for me as like the game that I definitely don't want to lose. I forget who it was on the panel said Georgia, and recruiting was the reason. And Jake, it was you. There's no arguing that, right? From a recruiting standpoint, there is zero arguing that. That's a fantastic point. And thank you for the 20, Lynn. Whenever Jay and Jake go, I'll let them speak to this further. But Jay, same question to you. I want to hear your opinion on this right here, Lynn's super chat, but I also want to hear your opinion. Is USC in trouble? And Chicken points out, Coach, he said, quit bringing the dark days up for the Sooners, but he also makes the giving you a little bit of a hard time for talking about that LSU game. But he also
really quickly, Ty, Chicken, I'm actually giving you love. Y'all's defense.
Oh, he was just giving you a hard time.
Yeah, I know. But I want him to know Oklahoma's defense may have cost them a national championship during those years. This is a whole fact. Even the year we played them against Kyler Murray.
Oh,
your
they had a defense.
May have cost you a national championship. That's a whole fact.
They had a defense. You didn't hear it from me. We might be having a different conversation.
It's a whole fact.
Now. Who knows? But he also makes an interesting comment about Entz saying that USC may have a head coach in waiting. Jay, I pass it to you. What are you thinking about USC? What are you thinking about the recruiting weekend during the Georgia game?
Well, I'll be quick. This is Lincoln Riley's last year. If you can't get it figured out here, then it's time for him to go. USC will make a mistake. I understand that the buyout for him is going to be extremely expensive, but the fact of the matter is that the reason why USC even brought him in the first place was for him to compete for national championships. And if Lincoln Riley can't make the playoffs with this USC football team, which by the way, this is more of a retooling year than it is a rebuild. This is a retooling year for them. You lost Kelin Williams. I mean, you lost a lot of NFL pieces. You lost Marshawn Lloyd. You lost Brandon Rice. Defensively, you didn't get really, you didn't get any better. You lost a top tier safety. No edge rushing presence. No defense. I mean, for the most part, your best defense isn't he in the transfer portal?
Let me see. Cause I can't remember whether he withdrew his name or not.
He might have withdrew his name, but even like Bear Alexander was just, I mean, it was terrible. It was a regression year.
Yes, he withdrew his name. Bear withdrew his name.
But I mean, the fact that he even put his name in that portal, I mean, that should just tell you all you need to know about it. I mean, it's a very, very bad situation. And I think what Lincoln Riley and his program tried to do is they tried to buy players. They literally tried to buy the players that come to university. They tried to give these players land. They tried to give these players these apartment studios, these big time condominiums or penthouses, and it's not working for the program right now. So this is it. If I was a part of if I was their AD, I don't have the patience. 4 years, and you brought me and this was the results that you kind of brought me. No, we did everything you wanted us to do. We brought Caleb Williams. We brought your coaching staff. That failed. You fired a majority of them. Now you bring in a lot of these other guys into the table. We're not going to do this. Not to mention the fact too that you brought in the Washington AD. You brought in the former Washington AD. She's not going to have the patience. She knows what it takes to establish to establish a winning coach in that mentality and get them to the next level. She's not going to do this crowd with Lincoln Riley. If he can't succeed, you buy him out. It's going to be extremely expensive, but you can take it. You are USC. You are a hot brand. You can afford it. And you just go ahead and you try to move on from the situation. It doesn't matter how many Heisman Trophy quarterbacks can he succeed. At the end of the day, if defensively, if they can't figure this thing out again, he's never going to figure it out. So that's what I would do personally. Not to mention the fact too, they got a pretty tough schedule. That's not an easy schedule, man. And yes, they have the fortune this year to not play any road games in extremely cold environments, but those first 7-8 games, that's a brutal, man. That's a brutal freaking road that they're going to go on. You're traveling on the road to Wisconsin, and then you're going back home, and you got to go on the road to Michigan. It's like that's a tough break for them to do. So that's what I have to kind of say about them there. You fail here and you fail to make the playoffs, you're out of there. In terms of recruiting, yes, I get it. Georgia, that's a huge recruiting weekend because obviously if Georgia wins that game, that's going to tell these recruits in its way like, hey, this is Georgia's house, right? Kalen DeBoer, he's only just arrived. We're still the kings of college football. That's understandable, but that's September, right? If you lose that game, you have an opportunity to play against that team again for an SC championship game. And not just that, you have a chance to you can lose to Georgia twice. You still can get into the playoffs. Like, what's the message you're trying to send? Like, yes, Georgia can be the king of the SEC. It could be the kings of the SEC. What does that mean? I make the playoffs. I still have a chance to make it to a national championship. I still have a chance of winning it. So I get it for a recruiting weekend standpoint. But honestly, like I said, the major concern to me is Auburn. That's the one we cannot lose in, right? You're still trying to fight for these in-state recruits. That's the major dog. That's the player that you just don't really want to lose to. Plus, like I said, these late games, that could be the difference of you making the playoffs and being potentially eliminated, at least for Georgia. That's still very extremely earlier on. Not just to mention the fact that you have a chance of playing them for an SEC championship game. So that's kind of the one that I would be a little bit more worried about, but I get it. I definitely understand why people say that Georgia would be the biggest one.
And Jake?
Yeah. Real quick on the USC aspect, I'll tell you guys what do I think about USC? Well, I look over, that was one of the things I was just kind of paying attention to, their schedule, right? So they're versus LSU, which I think they lose. Then your third game, you're at Michigan. That's again going to be a very hard game. Then you're at Minnesota. For those who don't want to give credit to Minnesota,
PJ
PJ
Fleck
Fleck
and those
does
guys.
an amazing
Yeah.
job.
Mhm.
So I think Minnesota actually offensively is going to be pretty good. I don't know so much about their defense, but I know offensively what they're returning. I had a pleasure meeting one of the wide receivers who's probably ended up going pro and drafted pretty high from Minnesota, his dad. And we talked extensively about PJ Fleck and what they were doing and how confident they all feel offensively. So I think Minnesota might actually surprise some people. Then you're Penn State at home. Then you're at Maryland, which we know is always a sneaky game, right? Rutgers, who actually looks semi decent, they're returning a lot, so that's a Rutgers at home. You're at Washington, which will be right before your bye. And that game, Washington. Somebody asked earlier, am I more a Bama fan or Washington fan? Which is an interesting question because I played. So here's how I answer that real quick. Is I would say fan wise, I'm more of a Bama fan. Just because I have so much respect for the history of the game. Like I love learning about that stuff. I love what Bear Bryant, his mindset was and the different things I've learned from him. What Saban's mindset, I say it all the time. Saban was there. No doubt that's where I would have gone. Washington, because I obviously played there. That's one of the places that you always have that love for your team and you want to see them successful, right? But for me, I would say I lean more towards Alabama. That's always been a special one for me. But you know, but again, at Washington, Jed Fish has a really good staff. They brought in a lot. It'd be interesting to see how they get people to mash transfer wise. They do have some returning guys that can make a splash that are unknown. They've done a good job. So I'm interested to see what they can do in year one. So that's kind of a question mark game. Then Nebraska at home. Nebraska's that team that everyone needs to keep an eye on. I think they're going to make a big move this year. Matt Rule's known for this, and especially if Dylan Raiola is the real deal, like people are saying, I think Nebraska is going to be a very hard game for everybody. You're at UCLA, question mark game, right? UCLA had a great defense, but now with Lynn here, he was UCLA's defensive coordinator. UCLA had I believe a top 10 defense or top 15 defense last season. So that's where USC benefits. And then your final game is Notre Dame at home. I don't see them winning 10 games at all. Number one, I'm going to be honest. I don't even think they make the playoffs. You have to change a system, and everyone's like, "Well, they got Miller Moss." Well, dude, Miller Moss is not Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams utilized that offense. You still have a lot to do, and now you have to formulate an offense around the guy who's not nearly as mobile. And we see that with Lincoln Riley, his success comes from guys who can be versatile and utilize their legs to create more time and confusion, because there's coverage marks for time frames, right? That's why they time you how fast you can get to a quarterback from a defensive line standpoint, because that impacts the coverage in the back end, right, on timing routes. And that's Lincoln's system is very much it'd be interesting to see how successful the offensive system is with a quarterback in his with that style, right? That's more of a pocket presence guy instead of be a magician, basically, because that's what Kyler Murray was too. So
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, that's where he's found his success. So I don't know. I don't think it's 10 win. Shoot, man, this schedule, I think it's actually a pretty difficult schedule. So I give him maybe 5 or 6 wins, to be honest. I know that's not generous, but that's the truth. It is what it is. So, and then as far as we get back to Georgia, that I was that one, Ty, that had brought up, and I said Georgia is the team to beat, and that had a lot to do with recruiting. Number one, DeBoer's first year, big deal, because if you remain dominant over Georgia, And honestly, LSU too is another one for me, but just because Brian Kelly's trying to make a splash in the recruiting end of it, we can see that those real early commitments, like why it's important to have like sincerity, be genuine. And I'm not saying that Brian Kelly isn't, and I'm not saying that Kirby Smart isn't, but I do think there's more glitter. They kind of what do they call that when they put all the little diamonds on something? They call it what?
Sequence.
No, when you
What?
know, kids make like a little, you know,
Bedazzling.
bedazzling. I think they
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
bedazzle
yeah,
the
yeah,
shit out of their
yeah,
recruiting trips
yeah.
for those other schools. I really do, because I think you get one perspective, and that's the thing about recruiting. And you really have to be. It's really important to have a good overall, the people around you who see through the curtain of, look at all the fun things, yay, because when you get there, shut the f up and do what I tell you, because it
Yeah,
goes from it's all happy joy to boot camp.
it's a
So
fact.
like, you're not going to get the same attention that you think you're getting. You know, I saw Travis Smith, right, junior, the wide receiver, walking like a red carpet taking pictures. That's not the way it is when you walk in.
No.
You move your stuff in and you're in a schedule, and guess what, you're just a number now. So is it real? That's what you have to ask yourself when you go through the recruiting process. Like, what's real? Like, what are the players? How do I feel in this locker room? Am I still unsure? Like, it sounds all good, but do I actually feel it? Like, feel it like that love and that connection. I think that's truthfully, that's why you're seeing what's happening at Alabama recruiting wise, because there is that's real. Like, that player brotherhood there is so deep. I mean, it goes back to the video me and Ty did on Caden Proctor. 100%. Like I said, you haven't watched it, go watch it. But that's where I think, though, also though, from the winning aspect, that it's very, very, very important that we establish ourselves right away. Now, I will tell you, based on what I know on Georgia's defense, that I think we can be really, really successful. Georgia's defense thrives on block destruction. That's what it's called. It's a kind of a newer term. They don't necessarily thrive. Yeah, they've had some beasts on their line, which helps dramatically, but they thrive on blowing up your blocking scheme, right? I don't know what just fell off. Holy smokes. I had a picture just fall off back there. It's crazy.
Because you're spitting
Freaking
that super
wall.
hot fire.
Like, who the hell is in here, man? Guys,
Paranormal.
yeah, we just got a paranormal experience in the office. Fucking crazy. What the hell, man? Anyways, talking about Georgia, and some ghost over here is pissed off about it. Well, screw you, dude. Here's the deal. The facts is that they thrive, right? They thrive on block destruction, which allows them to create chaos, and then they can't, the defense, the offense then cannot get into their rhythm and flow. That's why you have, like, you look at that's why they focus so hard on, like, their recruiting is like their D line. Their D lines are beasts, right? Oh man, nope, that's staying on there, buddy. That's staying on there. We're cowboy for sure, bud. But here's the deal. I think that the beautiful part is it makes it really difficult to identify where the point of attack is and for a block destruction when you're looking at DeBoer's offense. And I've said this before, but if I've talked about this so many times, but the OODA loop, right, used to train military fighting pilots, right? Observe, orient, decide, and I think act, right? And it goes in a circle. And the idea is, how do you process information quickly in that circle in your head? The point of basically getting it to reset is when it starts making its way around. How do you reset it at the beginning? Because every time you do something different, it resets it at the beginning until you start training yourself, right? So DeBoer's offense, what it does with all that pre-snap movement, along with like their motions, obviously their packages, and then also within the play, kind of a disguised scheme that allows you to think one thing and then go maybe even an opposite direction or an opposite of what you thought, recauses the OODA loop to reset multiple times. Therefore, your decision making and reaction process is slower. That creates an issue for the block destruction scheme that Georgia likes to run. And so they'll use multiple fronts, but that's going to be the hard part, right? Is for them to, how are they going to be able to utilize and beat these areas? So, the haunted stash. Yeah, Boomer's always giving some good ones. Man, the Stash Sports Network. That's what we're going to go with. But
That's nice.
I know, man. That's why I haven't created a channel. I've been trying to figure out a freaking name, dude. If you guys got ideas besides Boomer's, Boomer, that wasn't bad, but no, it's definitely not it. It was freaking crazy though. What the hell? But yeah, so that's my breakdown though for you guys who want to understand Georgia's defense and what they utilize, where they thrive at is right there. So I'm telling you, and we could get more into that like another episode or another show. But the more I study it, the more I'm like, wow, like this is going to be an interesting battle for Georgia, because their defense is typically what keeps them in the game. So I'm excited to see where we go with this 100%, but that's a huge game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Gentlemen, we have been on for 2 hours and 15 minutes. I think it is time we hopped off of here. I'm going to go around the table and everybody let them know where they can find you. Great comment by JT right here. Great comment by everybody. Like I said, we try and hit as many comments as we can. We try and interact as much as we can, but you guys kill it in the chat. And sometimes that thing just goes and it's hard to try and keep up and maintain some level of a principled show. That way we are providing you guys with insight, content, all of those things. So kind of tough to walk the line of being as interactive as possible and like giving a principled show. And I hope we are able to achieve that for all of you. And yeah, that's what we aim for. Now, before I pass it, I do want to give a shout out because Jantz had to run. Go subscribe to Jantz Sports, Jantz716 on YouTube, also on Twitter. I believe it's the same handle over on Twitter. Let me make sure real fast. But Jantz does a fantastic job. Y'all know that he and I have been running together. Yep, Jantz716 on Twitter. He and I have been running together since I very first started live streaming. It's been 3 years now at this point, us streaming together. So it's been a lot of fun. Go subscribe to his content. You don't want to miss out on the fantastic videos he puts out. But Coach Sean, I pass it to you.
You can find me on JMHO Sports Talk. That's on Twitter and YouTube, through the channel. Hadn't put up anything this week. I've been super busy this week, man. It's really my first day, really having some time to do anything. So I'll try to tap in today a couple of times. That's just my humble opinion. Sports Talk on both platforms.
And the Stash himself.
Boom. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter right now. I think I'm going to try to get up an Instagram too, but we are going to be starting a channel. We don't know the name, like I said, but working on that, working on some things, putting it together. I know I've said that a number of times, but we're starting some stuff so we can bring the guys together on another platform, and just utilize different channels to all come together and talk football and also give individual takes. So as soon as I get that out, if you follow me on Twitter, I'll obviously put that out. We'll put that on here. In the meantime, you find me on Around the Table Sports. You can find me with Coach Sean, JMHO Sports Talk. I'll jump over, and you also find me Hall of Fame College Football with Jason and the coach. Do some stuff over there. It's a lot of fun, man. We have a blast, and in general, I just I'm always down to collaborate too with content creators and come on as a guest or whatever it may be, just to talk sports and football, especially Alabama football. But in general, I have a lot of fun. So shoot me a follow and we'll get after it, and definitely get this channel rolling too when I get it going. So appreciate you guys coming in here, and good morning.
And shout out to Jason too. Shout out to Jason Watkins, Hall of Fame, man. Great guy. I missed him this week. I wanted to link up with you guys. I missed him this week, but new week coming up should be a lot more slow. So I'll definitely get a chance to tap in with my brothers. And thank you for Ty for having us on as usual.
Oh man, yeah, dude. I love Friday mornings with you guys. This is
Yeah,
my best. It's my favorite part of the week is that when I get to go
it's a
either
fact.
Monday nights, right? When we do Monday night roundtable here at Roundtable Sports, or do Friday mornings here at Roundtable Sports. And then, Coach Sean, as we jump in and do
Yeah.
yours whenever we get the opportunity. I don't know when do you have an idea the next one we're going to roll?
Yeah, I was gonna tap on with you guys and see what you guys' schedule is looking like
Oh,
later
good.
on
Okay.
today, early today.
Cool.
Just what you guys. I'll be here all day. This is
Woo.
my first day kicking it, so I got a chance to really burn them up today with some content. See what you guys thought about and see what your schedules look like.
Yeah, well, I'm excited, man. It's going to be fun. So you guys pay attention. Like I said, this is where having that Twitter or X is really useful
Yeah.
because we will post that for sure and let you guys know. So hit that notification.
Appreciate it, Chicken saying, I remember when Ty only had 300 subs, and we're just shy of 23,000. So
Wow.
we are going. It has been a journey and been a lot of fun. Thank you to everybody. But we do have a fourth member of the panel who hasn't spoken yet, but we always, well, technically fifth member of the panel, we always give him the last word. And that's the spinning wheel of doom. And let me introduce you. And it spins.